3 million years ago, on a primitive and untamed Earth, it was the dawn of humanity, the era of our earliest ancestors. Among them was one particular individual who stood out from the rest. While supposedly an ordinary Australopithecus, he took down mammoths for sport. This creature possessed an unnatural and intense passion for the thrill of the hunt. But his greatest anomaly was simple. He was seemingly immortal. He watched as his entire species faded into history, leaving him utterly alone. As civilizations rose and fell, he adapted, but his core essence never changed. Through the millennia, a single primal drive fueled his existence, the thrill of combat. For him, the fight was everything, his only reason for living. Over 3 million years, endless combat sculpted his body into the ultimate weapon. With nothing but raw strength, he ascended to godhood, becoming the #1 ranked Earth god, Mu. But even a god's life on a throne overlooking his planet grew unbearably dull. So, with a simple, impatient tap of his foot, he decided to stir things up. The casual gesture unleashed a shockwave that rocked the very foundations of the heavens. His power traveled all the way to the god's sanctuary, the divine realm itself. The entire realm began to tremble violently from the force of his boredom. Other deities, like the rulers of planet Elmure, were sent reeling from the unexpected disturbance. Watching the chaos unfold was the second-ranked god, a figure of immense authority. Lucifer, the god of Elmure, could only look on with weary frustration at his superior's antics. The supreme god sits on his throne, utterly bored by his own unmatched power. After 1,000 years without a decent fight, he realizes being too strong is a curse. A sudden realization dawns on him. His power has made finding a real battle impossible. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he hatches a genius, if not reckless, plan. His solution is simple. He'll become a fragile human on Earth to find worthy opponents again. With his decision made, he stands and calls out for his trusted subordinate. A shadowy dragon immediately answers his summons, soaring down from the heavens. It lands with immense force, its powerful claws gripping the divine ground. Before him stands a towering, muscular, dragon-like being, ready to receive orders. This powerful creature is Yang, the supreme god's loyal secretary. The supreme god gives a simple order to his secretary: guard this realm in his absence. In response, Yang unleashes a powerful binding spell, conjuring mystical chains. Suddenly, the supreme god finds himself completely ensnared by the glowing restraints. A close-up reveals the dragon's eye, burning with defiant resolve. Yang frantically questions his master's sudden departure, reminding him of his divine duties. Unfazed, the god begins to walk off, effortlessly dragging his struggling secretary along. As Yang laments his fate, the supreme god's patience visibly wears thin. With a surge of raw power, he shatters the magical chains binding him. He then turns with a menacing glare, offering his subordinate a very different kind of meeting. Instantly terrified, Yang retracts his challenge and meekly wishes his lord a safe journey. The supreme god announces his departure, reaching out towards a distant mortal world. He then scans the planet below, contemplating which human body he should borrow for his vacation. His attention is drawn to a particularly loud prayer from a man desperate to escape his life by any means necessary. With a wicked grin, the god chooses his vessel, deciding to grant the man's wish as an added bonus. The god's gleeful decision is met with the sight of his secretary, Yang, who looks completely broken. He pauses for a moment, considering whether he should even bother explaining his grand plan. Turning away, he entrusts his own powerful body to Yang, along with the care of the soul who will soon inhabit it. The little dragon panics, screaming that if the god's body dies while he's away, his soul will perish too. Unconcerned, the god simply smirks, questioning who should really be worried in this situation. He then begins to fade away with a confident promise of a quick return, leaving his secretary to protest in vain. The scene cuts to a fierce demon king letting out a final, agonizing roar. As a young hero stands victorious, his glowing sword finally still. He grins triumphantly, celebrating his hard-won victory over evil. And so, the classic tale of the hero and his party comes to a happy end. Except this entire adventure was just a show being watched on a smartphone. The viewer, a bandaged teen named Lee Ho, scoffs at the predictable plot. Having seen enough, he simply lets the phone drop from his hand. He acknowledges that it was a decent distraction while it lasted. The device shatters on the ground, its fantasy world gone in an instant. Now on a rooftop, Lee Ho declares he can finally go without any regrets. With a final curse for the world that broke him, he steels his resolve. He then takes a running leap off the rooftop, embracing the fall. As he plummets towards the ground, he sends out a final desperate challenge. He dares any higher power listening to send him to another world, just like in his novels. Down below, his shattered phone lies waiting on the cold concrete. A sudden violent splatter confirms his tragic landing right next to the device. Lee Ho lies broken on the pavement, the impact having thrown his glasses aside. Miraculously, his hand twitches, clinging to a final moment of consciousness. He grits his teeth against the overwhelming agony, his body refusing to give up. Suddenly, a strange, powerful entity materializes over him, leaving the boy utterly bewildered. Suddenly, Lee Ho is on his feet, completely healed but sweating with confusion. Before him stands the entity in its true form, a colossal, intimidating dragon. Within this mental realm, both boy and beast demand to know who the other is. Just then, a third, more arrogant presence with fiery red hair makes his grand entrance. He casually tells the now tiny dragon that he's stepping out for a moment. The little dragon frantically tries to warn him of the danger, but his plea is ignored. With a determined glint in his eye, the red-haired being prepares to take action. Lee Ho's perspective snaps back, his eyes widening in shock behind his glasses. He finds himself plummeting towards the ground once more, reliving his final moments. The impact is just as brutal, sending him crashing onto the pavement all over again. He lies on the pavement, his face a mask of pure agony from the repeated impact. From above, the red-haired being witnesses the grim scene, questioning what just happened. Suddenly, Lee Ho's fingers twitch, a sign of impossible life amidst the stillness. His hand then clenches slightly, a deliberate movement that defies his condition. An explanation appears, hinting that his involuntary muscles are being controlled. The focus shifts to the heart, the ultimate involuntary muscle, now a puppet on a string. It's revealed a being named Mu has spent 3 million years mastering the physical body. This ancient power allows for conscious control over every part of the body, even the heart. As a result, a brilliant light emanates from Lee Ho's chest, restarting his system. With a horrifying gasp, his body is violently jolted back from the brink. Using his ancient knowledge, Mu not only repairs the heart, but also manipulates the blood vessels to stop the bleeding. He quickly analyzes his new host's life, concluding that Lee Ho's existence is pitifully miserable. Mu discovers the source of this misery is a place called school, and the people within it. Flashes of memory reveal a life filled with relentless torment from his classmates. But for Mu, this constant conflict isn't a problem, it's the perfect opportunity. A wicked smile forms as he realizes he can immediately put this body to the test. Without hesitation, he throws a practice punch, unleashing a shockwave of raw power. His eyes now burn with an intensity that doesn't belong to a high school student. Mu channels his power, consciously activating every muscle and sinew in his arm for maximum impact. After effortlessly sending an opponent flying, he simply flexes his hand, noting the unfamiliar feeling of muscle strain. A bully interrupts his train of thought, calling him by an insulting name and questioning his actions. Mu turns to face him, his cold, intense gaze a silent challenge to the classroom hierarchy. He takes a single, deliberate step forward, his intentions unclear but his presence heavy. The bully simply scoffs, lounging in his chair and looking down on the approaching student. Suddenly, the bully sees a flash of the true, monstrous spirit lurking behind the boy's eyes. Leaning forward, he questions Mu's sanity and points out his missing glasses, a key part of his old identity. Without warning, the bully grabs Mu and forcefully slams him down, trying to reassert his dominance. He continues to mock him, cruelly taunting him about his perceived weakness. Following the impact, droplets of red begin to splatter onto the clean floor. As Mu slowly rises, his face hidden in shadow, it's clear the bully has just broken one of his cardinal rules. For Mu, a true fight has a very specific set of rules. It can only begin when both parties genuinely have the will to engage. While he is always ready for a confrontation, the key lies in his opponent's intent. The only way to confirm that intent is through a preemptive strike from the enemy. With his rule finally met, a chillingly ecstatic grin spreads across Mu's bloodied face. The bully is stunned by this insane reaction, completely unprepared for what's coming next. Without a moment's hesitation, Mu delivers a devastating blow right to the bully's face. The bully is shocked as a strange energy seems to overload his entire arm from the impact. He recoils in agony, his muscles screaming in protest from a pain he's never felt before. Suddenly, the teacher and classmates stare in horror, realizing the classroom has become a battleground. As the teacher shouts in disbelief, the entire class watches the confrontation unfold. Stunned and bleeding, the bully glares with pure fury after that unexpected hit. Fueled by rage, he lunges forward, determined to make Mu pay for the humiliation. But Mu, with glowing eyes, calmly raises his arms to block the incoming assault. He realizes his current body is too weak to simply dodge the attack, forcing him to change tactics. Instead, Mu channels a strange pink energy, preparing a multi-layered defense. The bully is completely baffled as his powerful punches stop dead by an unseen force. Despite his defense, Mu still takes a heavy blow to the face, reminding him of his current limits. Unrelenting, the bully continues his furious barrage, screaming with every strike. Battered and bruised, Mu calmly assesses the situation, knowing his available options are dwindling fast. Realizing his conventional attacks are useless, Mu devises a desperate, unconventional strategy. As the next punch flies, Mu shockingly uses his own head to block the fist. The impact proves disastrous for the attacker, as his finger bones shatter against Mu's skull. The bully recoils, howling in pure agony from his now mangled hand. With a confident smirk, Mu reveals his calculated gamble paid off perfectly. Before his opponent can recover, Mu's eyes flare with a menacing red light. He surges forward, seizing the bully's injured hand to neutralize any defense. Then, Mu rams his head directly into his foe's solar plexus, a critical weak spot. The bully is left gasping and speechless, completely overwhelmed by the crippling blow. Channeling immense power, Mu prepares to deliver the final upward driving attack. Mu drives a brutal uppercut straight into the bully's jaw, ending the fight decisively. The force of the blow sends his opponent's consciousness fading into a white haze. As his foe collapses to his knees, Mu stands over him, the undisputed victor. The bully is left unconscious on the floor as the entire class records the shocking aftermath. Onlookers are completely stunned, unable to process the sudden turn of events. One student recalls how this same fighter was easily defeated just the day before. Ignoring the shocked whispers, Mu turns away, his face a mask of cold determination. After the adrenaline fades, the harsh reality of the fight begins to set in. He feels the throbbing pain from every blow he took during the intense exchange. Then, the bitter taste of his own blood serves as a grim reminder of the battle. Despite the pain, a grim resolve hardens his expression. Suddenly, a manic grin stretches across his face as he embraces the brutal sensation. As his opponent lies defeated, a darker side of Mu looks down, completely satisfied. He then crouches over the fallen student, offering a silent, chilling thanks for the fight. But the fight isn't over, as he leans in and commits a savage, unthinkable act. A spray of red confirms the brutal finality of his shocking move. He rises, bloodied but unfazed, a cold look in his eyes. The onlookers are frozen in sheer terror, capturing the gruesome scene on their phones. Whispers spread through the crowd as they try to comprehend the madness they just witnessed. Wiping his mouth, Mu gives a triumphant smirk, completely unbothered by their horror. Lying defeated, the bully surprisingly reflects on how much he enjoyed the fight. A flashback reveals Mu's strange tradition of leaving a mark on worthy opponents as a sign of gratitude. This mark also served as a claim, designating them as someone who could provide future entertainment. Known as Mu's play, this act became a legendary symbol of strength among powerful warriors. Back in the present, gossip about the second-year fight begins to spread like wildfire through the school. One student animatedly shares a particularly strange and unbelievable rumor he just heard. The unbelievable twist is that the notorious bully was utterly defeated by the very kid he was tormenting. And as for the loser, he suffered a rather permanent and humiliating consequence. Outside, a cat blissfully stretches, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding inside. The defeated bully is carried away on a stretcher as curious students watch the dramatic aftermath from their classroom windows. From the window, the victor smugly observes the special treatment his opponent is receiving. As the ambulance drives off, he gives a casual, almost mocking wave goodbye. Suddenly, an enraged teacher appears from behind, demanding his presence in the office immediately. Inside the office, the teacher explodes with fury, questioning the student's sanity over the incident. He then raises a clipboard, furious about the severe outcome of the fight. But instead of fear, the student shows a bizarre excitement, eagerly anticipating the discipline. The teacher freezes mid-swing, completely baffled by the student's unsettlingly joyful reaction. After a moment of confusion, the flustered teacher abandons the idea and demands to see his parents instead. He's then dismissed for the day, leaving the student looking disappointed but also intrigued by the early departure. Following the order, the student confidently strolls down the street, having left school grounds. He realizes leaving school early means he can finally return to his base. As he clutches his chest, he sees this as a perfect chance to recover and strengthen his current, fragile body. Flexing his fingers, he laments his inability to access his former power, mana. An explanation reveals mana as the life force that grants superhuman abilities across different worlds. This very energy transforms ordinary people into powerful hunters and mages in other realms. But on Earth, he discovers this power is absent as his attempt to summon it fails spectacularly. The last spark of energy vanishes from his hand, confirming his powers are completely useless here. Recalling a past battle, he steels himself to fight without relying on his most powerful techniques. After this revelation, he arrives at a Spartan room and collapses onto a simple mattress on the floor. He closes his eyes, understanding that for now, rest and recovery are his top priorities. His brief moment of peace is shattered by an unexpected disturbance. His eyes fly open, instantly alert to a new presence in the room. He's greeted by the bizarre sight of a student riding a tiny, exhausted dragon. The boy hops off and boldly demands the red-haired warrior hand something over. He mistakenly believes the warrior is there to grant his wish of being transported to another world, dragon included. A greedy glint reveals his dream of becoming an overpowered hero with a dragon sidekick. Unimpressed, the warrior summons a colossal, glowing red hand, deeming the newcomer a strange one. Before the boy can react, the massive hand snatches him up in its grip. Now clad in a cloak, the warrior casually walks away with the captured student in tow. A menacing grin spreads across his face as he promises to grant the boy's wish in his own twisted way. They arrive at the ominous fortress of the second-ranked demon, Lucifer's domain. The warrior steps forward, his arrival shaking the very ground of the demonic realm. Inside, the domain's master, a horned figure with flowing white hair, senses the intrusion. The warrior casually strolls in, presenting the captured student to the unimpressed ruler. Before the warrior can even state his purpose, the master immediately rejects his proposal. Ignoring the dismissal, the warrior declares his intention to send the boy through a gate. The horned master turns with a glare, questioning the warrior's right to make such a decision. With a smug grin, the warrior suggests his overwhelming power is all the justification he needs. His eyes burn with excitement as he eagerly invites the master to challenge his authority. Trembling with fury, the master clenches his fists, infuriated by the warrior's reliance on brute force. The warrior confidently steps forward, telling the master he's taking over. As he reaches for the gate, the master warns him of a divine barrier meant to stop intruders. The master's attempt to intervene is futile as the barrier violently repels his hand. He stares in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how the warrior is ignoring the domain's rules. Unfazed, the warrior scoffs at the master's adherence to rules he clearly intends to break. Turning his back on the master, he uses his energy to pull the startled boy forward. He presents the shimmering portal to the boy, ordering him to enter the other world. When the boy hesitates and asks about the dragon, the warrior's true intentions are revealed. He coldly informs the boy that the dragon is his and his alone, shattering the boy's hopes. Ignoring the boy's plea, the warrior smashes his hand through the divine barrier, reaching for the gate's power source. The warrior scoffs, unimpressed by the boy's lack of resolve. After entrusting the boy to the dragon, the warrior announces his own departure. As the barrier shatters, the master's hand trembles with restrained power. The scene shifts to the past, revealing the master's true identity as Lucifer, the first demon king. His arrogance led him to challenge the being known as God itself. In the heat of battle, Lucifer materializes a colossal blade of pure red energy. With immense power, he brings the divine weapon down upon his celestial foe. The resulting impact is catastrophic, ending the life of the supreme being. Thus, he usurped the throne, conquering other deities to rise to the top. He ultimately became the god of gods, the undisputed ruler of all. He was an invincible and supreme being, a legend without equal. His power was catastrophic and transcendent, a truly amazing existence. Yet even this mighty ruler was brought down by a mysterious entity called Mu. Now his rage burns, vowing vengeance against the lowly human responsible. Reduced to a helpless orb, he's unceremoniously carried away by a tiny dragon. As he flies through the sky in his new, comical form, his sinister grin promises trouble. His inner fury seethes, recalling the beggar-like trash who caused his downfall. Meanwhile, the very human he despises is also fuming, bandaged but full of murderous intent. Lying in a hospital bed, the man trembles with anger, convinced his opponent is finished for good. He furiously scrolls through his phone, looking for an ally to help settle the score. A determined fighter relentlessly pummels a punching bag, training over and over. This is Kang Cheol, a national youth boxing champion with an unyielding gaze. After his intense session, he stands in the locker room, still simmering with focus. He turns his head slightly, a bead of sweat tracing his sharp jawline. Suddenly, a ringing phone shatters the gym's silence, and he realizes it's his. A finger swipes across the cracked screen to answer the unexpected call. The man on the phone is Guak Cheol, a blonde boxer with a cool, calculating demeanor. On the other end, the bandaged man from the hospital makes a very tempting offer. A sly grin spreads across Guak Cheol's face, intrigued by the proposition. The scene then cuts away to a bustling classroom, filled with unsuspecting students. A bandaged student bursts into the classroom, his expression furious. He walks past another student in a black mask, who immediately becomes the subject of hushed whispers. The class gossips about the masked boy, wondering how such a notorious bully ended up in that state. Overhearing their taunts, the masked student trembles with silent, humiliated rage. Meanwhile, the bandaged student explodes, slamming his bag onto the floor with a powerful thud. He furiously challenges his classmates, demanding they say their piece to his face. Unfazed by the outburst, a female student with glasses calmly stands up. She coolly tells him to stop making a scene and either sit down or leave. Taken aback by her audacity, the boy's face contorts with disbelief and anger. He then grabs a chair, ready to escalate the confrontation with the defiant girl. Just as the situation is about to explode, the classroom door creaks open, revealing a very confused teacher. He steps inside, immediately questioning why the class president is standing in the middle of the room. Playing it cool, she dismisses the incident as nothing, effectively ending the tense standoff. The teacher then summons her for a private chat after school, piquing her curiosity. He tasks her with checking on an absent troublemaker, dangling a glowing recommendation letter as a reward. Despite her clear annoyance, the class president accepts the unwelcome assignment. Later that day, she finds herself knocking on the door of the missing student's residence. When no one answers her call, she decides to test her luck with the doorknob. To her surprise, the door swings open, and she cautiously peers into the dark room. Her eyes widen as she discovers the student lying completely still on the floor. She rushes to his side, finding him completely unresponsive on the cold floor. Believing she stumbled upon a dead body, the class president lets out a horrified scream. Following her frantic call for help, the scene shifts to a modern hospital. Inside, the student lies unconscious in a hospital bed, hooked up to an IV. A closer look reveals his eyes are rolled back, showing just how critical his condition was. But then, his eyes snap open and a sly grin spreads across his face as he gazes at her. The class president is utterly baffled by his bizarre and sudden change in demeanor. Annoyed, she gets up to leave, mentioning that her teacher is calling her back to school. Now sitting up, the student eyes her with a newfound intensity, wondering if she saved him. Just as she turns to go, he stops her, insisting he has an important question. He realizes he knows nothing about Earth and must gather information, starting with one crucial detail. With a confident smirk, he asks her for the best place to train his body. The class president squints, her suspicion growing with his every word. His attempt to play dumb with a goofy face is met with her complete and utter disdain. She cuts right to the chase, correctly guessing he's completely broke. Elsewhere, a familiar bully is cornered by his older cousin, shocked to find his target. The student, now at an outdoor gym, is confronted by the bully for throwing a rock. Backed by his cousin, the bully boasts about his actions and threatens dire consequences. Before the bully can finish his threat, a fist slams into his face with blinding speed. The bully is instantly knocked to the ground, leaving his cousin to face the aftermath. The student smirks with glowing eyes, welcoming the challenge he just initiated. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a divine realm where gods are gathered for their regular meeting. A nervous green dragon takes the lead, announcing he's just a messenger for their absent lord. He's immediately interrupted by a horned figure who calls out his name with authority. With a furious glare, the horned god questions the dragon's every action. The dragon panics, desperately trying to explain he's just following orders and means no harm. Composing himself for a moment, he shakily presents the message he was sent to deliver. He relays the Lord's anticlimactic order to simply report anyone worth fighting. In a flash of rage, the horned god smashes the table, sending the dragon reeling back in shock. The furious god vents their anger over the pointless routine and their leader's mysterious absence. The furious god questions the council's silence, while the others look on nervously. He sternly reminds them their purpose is to maintain the world's stability, not cater to whims. Even the third-ranked divine archer voices her frustration over the earth god's conspicuous absence. Slamming the table, the horned god accuses their leader of treating cosmic balance like a personal game. He then brings up a past disaster, blaming their leader's reckless interference for making things worse. The memory clearly terrifies the ninth-ranked god of Cyclops, who begins to sweat profusely. A flashback reveals the horrifying reason. A monstrous entity once descended upon planet Cyclops a millennium ago. This void creature, Shoggoth, was a nightmare of countless eyes and a gaping, tooth-filled maw. The colossal beast began to devour the entire planet in a single devastating bite. Suddenly, a red-haired warrior with glowing eyes emerges from the destruction, radiating pure fury. This warrior, far from being a hero, grins with manic delight at the surrounding carnage. Back in the present, the ninth-ranked god recounts how that warrior's recklessness allowed the void creature to consume a chunk of their world. He furiously slams his hand down, declaring that such a chaotic being is unworthy of the title of god. Meanwhile, in another realm, a dragon-like servant is shocked by an unexpected development concerning his lord. The servant grows increasingly desperate, praying for his master's swift return to handle the unfolding crisis. The story then jumps to Earth, where a young man reels back in pain after a sudden confrontation. As the downed bully recovers, he tries to intimidate his attacker by threatening him with his boxer cousin. The cousin, a blonde man named Kwak Cheol, steps forward, intrigued by the blue-haired boy's impressive speed. With a confident smirk, the blue-haired boy clarifies that his skills don't come from sports, but from actual fighting. Kwak Cheol finds this declaration hilarious, laughing uncontrollably at what he perceives as childish bravado. Done laughing, Kwak Cheol drops into a professional fighting stance, ready to get serious. He challenges the blue-haired boy to prove his bold claims are more than just talk. The boxer immediately throws a powerful punch that connects squarely with his opponent's face. Kwak Cheol follows through with his fist, expecting an easy and decisive end to the fight. Suddenly, his confident expression twists into one of pure shock and disbelief. A cold dread washes over the boxer as he questions what kind of person he just hit. He realizes with horror that the boy watched the fist approach but made no attempt to dodge. Instead, the blue-haired boy took the full force of the blow with a terrifyingly wide grin. The boy's head snaps back from the impact, but he seems completely unfazed by the damage. He then reveals his fighting style involves never avoiding a preemptive strike, turning the tables on the stunned boxer. The boxer, now on high alert, braces himself for whatever comes next. Suddenly, the blue-haired boy awkwardly mimics the boxer's stance, preparing to throw a punch of his own. Believing it's just a pathetic copy, the boxer smirks as the boy's fist flies towards him. But the smirk vanishes as the punch connects with a shocking amount of force. The sheer power of the blow sends the seasoned fighter stumbling backward in disbelief. Clutching his arm, the boxer is stunned by the insane strength behind such a clumsy-looking attack. With a confident grin, the boy reveals a heavily scarred and impossibly muscular arm. His eyes narrow as he begins to explain the secret behind his devastating technique. It all comes down to the precise moment his fist makes contact with the target. At that exact instant, he flexes every muscle fiber in his arm to unleash explosive power. He reveals this incredible power comes at the cost of agonizing pain in his arm. Yet, a twisted smile shows he absolutely revels in the thrilling sensation. The blonde fighter, however, mocks his opponent's wide-open and laughable guard. He launches a flurry of attacks that are fast and accurate, but far too simple. By just watching his enemy's muscles, the boy can anticipate the entire assault. This allows him to precisely predict the trajectory of every incoming fist. With a wild grin, the blonde brawler unleashes a powerful chopping attack. But his opponent meets the devastating blow head-on with a perfectly timed punch. The blonde fighter recoils, his confident expression instantly replaced by shock. A moment later, he cries out as intense pain shoots through his hand. With his previous foe neutralized, the blue-haired fighter turns his cold gaze to the last man standing. He smirks, finding it hilarious that all his opponents react with the exact same terror. A swift, decisive blow had just sent the blonde brawler flying. Now, with one man down, the final opponent looks on in utter disbelief. As he turns, a dark shadow seems to fall over the protagonist's face, hiding his features. His eyes then gleam with a menacing purple light, promising the fight is far from over. The remaining challenger is frozen in place, sweating profusely from pure dread. When the victor takes a single step forward, the boy scrambles back, desperate to get away. The protagonist halts, realizing his opponent has completely lost the will to fight. But in a surprising move, the terrified boy points and offers a way out if he'll just admit defeat. Just as he's about to admit defeat, a fist smashes into his face, cutting him off. With a manic grin, the challenger ignores the surrender and continues his brutal assault. He's then subjected to a merciless flurry of blows, completely overwhelming him. Now completely battered, he can barely stammer out the words to give up. A close-up on the aggressor's fist reveals the sheer force of the encounter. The victor looms over him, his face obscured by a menacing shadow. He then flashes a disturbingly thrilled smile, mocking his opponent's supposed tenacity. The scene reveals the protagonist and his allies all left defeated on the pavement. Utterly broken on the ground, he can only stare up at his tormentor in defeat. Sometime later, he sits alone in a bleak room, contemplating his devastating loss. He reflects on the pure thrill of the fight, a dangerous glint in his eye. But as he examines his battered arms, he scoffs at how easily this body breaks. The slightest exertion is enough to tear his muscles apart, a frustrating limitation. He clenches his fist in annoyance, his momentum constantly being interrupted by his weakness. Suddenly remembering a promise he made, he sits up with renewed purpose. A strange blue aura begins to swirl around him as he focuses his will. With his eyes shut, he tries to tap into a deeper source of power. Yet after a moment of intense focus, absolutely nothing happens. Opening his eyes in confusion, he questions why his powers have suddenly failed him. The scene then shifts to a few days prior, revealing the divine and ominous realm of Lucifer. As Lucifer prepares to depart for Earth, a powerful subordinate bids him farewell. With his master gone, the red-haired demon clenches his fist and mounts a massive green dragon. The beast inquires about his recent trip, learning that his current vessel is far too weak. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he demands a recovery magic orb to restore his strength. The narrative then explains these magic orbs are items imbued with Lucifer's own power. While plentiful on other mana-rich worlds, these artifacts are a different story entirely on Earth. There they are incredibly rare, obtainable only through the favor or whim of a divine being. Consequently, only a select few throughout human history have ever wielded such power. Those who possessed these items were revered by humanity as godlike beings themselves. The dragon promises to have the orb ready for his next trip, making the demon question his immediate return. The demon questions the dragon's sudden departure, reminding him of their regular meeting. With a confident smirk, the demon reveals he's already prepared for the dragon's nagging request. The dragon reluctantly accepts a folded note, its expression unreadable. Suddenly, the demon gestures towards a massive projection of Earth, leaving the dragon bewildered. As the demon activates a portal to the human world, a brilliant blue light engulfs the area. His physical form collapses, consciousness gone as a familiar purple orb observes from the shadows. Back in the present, the purple demon grins, having witnessed the entire exchange. The white-haired demon realizes his master's body is now an empty vessel, ripe for the taking. He confirms with the dragon that missing the meeting means his master will be gone for a significant time. A wicked smile spreads across the demon's face as he understands this is the perfect opportunity. He seizes upon this once-in-a-thousand-years chance with a malevolent grin. Wasting no time, he unleashes a forbidden technique known as life taxidermy. Suddenly, beams of purple energy erupt from his spell, striking the unsuspecting dragon. The colossal beast is stunned as the surprise attack finds its mark. A relentless barrage of magic pins the dragon down, overwhelming its defenses. It thrashes in confusion and pain, caught completely off guard by the betrayal. The enraged dragon glares at its attacker, demanding an explanation for this treachery. It quickly realizes this is a direct declaration of war against the Earth God. In response, the demon unfurls his own majestic wings, asserting his dominance. He then boldly proclaims his intention to strip the Earth God of his divine position. With a chilling glare, the demon officially declares the start of a war. The furious dragon retaliates by compressing a massive amount of energy in its jaws. It then unleashes a devastating beam of pure destructive force. The blast hurtles straight towards the demon, who stands his ground without flinching. He casually swats the attack aside with a single hand, redirecting its immense power. The deflected energy now careens towards a nearby planet. Upon impact, the celestial body is engulfed in a cataclysmic explosion. Watching from below, a young archer scoffs at the display of power. She calmly erects a defensive aura, protecting her allies from the aftermath. The powerful shield easily withstands the rain of destructive energy. The winged demon faces off against a lone dragon, trapping the archer's party behind a wall of energy spikes. In a burst of red energy, the dragon shatters its form, releasing its true power. It transforms into a colossal beast, its fiery eyes glaring down at the much smaller demon. Unimpressed, the demon coldly states that the dragon's master is the next target. The massive dragon counters, its glowing eye promising there will be no next for him. Shifting his attention, the demon questions the archer about her stance on the ongoing expulsion. The archer casually declares her neutrality, choosing not to get involved in their dispute. Accepting her decision, the demon issues a bold challenge to anyone else who dares to oppose him. He hovers menacingly, ready to swiftly eliminate any who step forward. The giant dragon, now sweating, questions the demon's audacity to think he can defeat its master. The demon smirks, knowing he holds a crucial piece of information. He then mocks the dragon, revealing he knows its master is weakened inside a human body. Stunned into silence, the dragon realizes its greatest secret has been exposed. The demon chides the beast, claiming its overconfidence made it careless. As the dragon seethes, purple energy spikes erupt from the ground, pinning it down. It vows to stop him, but the demon is already airborne, attempting to escape its grasp. The dragon's massive tail whips around and ensnares the demon mid-flight. Landing gracefully, he effortlessly pulls on the energy tethers binding the creature. He calmly tells the dragon to stay still, explaining he needs it alive to get to Earth. With a wicked grin, the demon declares his plan to crush its weakened master upon his arrival. The dragon erupts in a booming laugh, amused by the demon's empty threat. Its bravado quickly fades, replaced by a nervous sweat as reality sets in. Elsewhere, a blonde athlete gets an earful for getting into a fight before a big competition. His coach furiously banishes him, ordering him to stay away until his arm is fully healed. Angrily, the fighter storms off with his arm in a sling, blaming someone else for his injury. As he leaves, he's stopped in his tracks by a serious-looking man blocking the doorway. The newcomer's intense gaze immediately sizes up the injured athlete. He wastes no time questioning the blonde man about his conspicuous injury. This man is revealed to be Steel, the undisputed top fighter of the entire boxing gym. Looking at the gym's ace, the injured fighter suddenly sees a potential solution to his problem. With his head bowed, the injured fighter begins to spin a tale of woe for the gym's ace. He claims it all started because his younger brother was being bullied by some tough kids. Overcome with emotion, he recounts how he tried to resolve the situation peacefully. Wiping away tears, he explains that his good intentions resulted in him getting ambushed and injured. But Steel turns his back, coldly scolding him for his carelessness right before a competition. As he walks off, The ace tells him he should have spent more time training instead of brawling. Realizing his emotional appeal has utterly failed, the blonde fighter's face hardens with frustration. Just then, Steel stops in his tracks and asks an unexpected question. He quickly tries to play it cool with an awkward laugh, wondering if Steel saw through his crocodile tears. Steel turns back with an intense gaze, demanding to know who was responsible for the incident. The blue-haired man sits in confusion, wondering why he can't return to his true self. A grim expression crosses his face as he deduces there's only one possible explanation. He realizes something must be terribly wrong with his powerful original body. Even with his mighty guardian on watch, he knows very few could ever pose a real threat. Suddenly, a dreadful possibility hits him, a coordinated attack from the gods themselves. Realizing the urgency, he leaps to his feet, knowing there's no time to waste. His fist trembles with immense rage as he thinks about his cowardly enemies. Overwhelmed with fury, he violently slams his hand down in frustration. His face twists in anger, furious that they would dare attack in his absence. He unleashes his pent-up rage on the mattress, desperate to join the fight he's missing. After venting his fury, he stands panting over the demolished pillow, trying to regain his breath. He forces himself to think rationally, concluding his friends must have been ambushed by a group. Deciding he can't just wait around, he resolves to prepare himself in any way he can. The very next day, he's already at a park, heading straight for the exercise equipment. He immediately begins a grueling workout, focusing on building muscles he's previously neglected. As he pushes his limits, he can feel his core muscles screaming under the intense strain. Despite the agonizing burn, a look of sheer satisfaction spreads across his determined face. He then lets out a wild, triumphant laugh that echoes through the otherwise quiet park. His bizarre behavior earns him some seriously confused and concerned looks from passers-by. Suddenly, his intense workout is interrupted as he shouts towards someone just out of view. Startled by the sudden voice, he loses his grip and comes crashing down onto his back. A girl in a school uniform towers over him, looking completely unimpressed by his dramatic workout. With an annoyed expression, she furiously questions his decision to skip school. Now sitting on a bench, he casually dismisses school as a place not suited for his training. When she asks what he truly wants, he declares his unwavering ambition to become stronger. She presses him for a reason, and he admits his only goal is to become a better fighter. He then launches into an obsessive monologue about fighting, leaving her completely exasperated. As he continues his passionate rant, a brilliant idea suddenly strikes her. She cleverly points out the major flaw in his logic. There's no one to fight in an empty park. To find real opponents, she explains, he needs to be where people and conflicts are. She gives him an ultimatum: show up at school or leave her alone for good. As she walks away, her logic finally sinks in, and he realizes she's right. He knows his old rivals won't return, so he must actively seek out new challenges. With newfound purpose, Lee-ho decides to finally attend school and see what it has to offer. Suddenly, a mysterious masked figure appears, interrupting his train of thought. The story then flashes back to a 15-year-old Kang Cheol, a rising star in the world of boxing. His sister was equally talented, a promising ballerina captivating audiences on stage. Kang Cheol is seen in the crowd, her biggest fan, beaming with pride, but lurking in the shadows behind him, an ominous figure watched his sister with a chilling intensity. This shadowy spectator's interest quickly spiraled into a dangerous obsession, documented by countless photos. Eventually, the stalker's twisted admiration for a simple photograph was no longer enough. Soon, his obsession spilled into the real world, crossing a dangerous line. The stalker finally makes his move, lunging at the unsuspecting ballerina in a dark alley. But just in the nick of time, a powerful strike intercepts the attacker. Kang Cheol had saved his sister, but his early intervention meant the law couldn't fully punish the man. Instead of learning his lesson, the stalker's failure only fueled his deranged fixation. Now armed and even more dangerous, he came back for a second attempt. As the stalker attacked again, Kang Cheol desperately fought to disarm him. He managed to stop the attack, but this time he wasn't quite fast enough. The ballerina's leg is severely injured, shattering her dreams and breaking the swan's wings forever. After seeing the law fail to protect the innocent, his faith in the system completely shattered. He then resolved to deliver his own brand of justice, one the system couldn't provide. With his own two hands, he would carve out a new, brutal path. Thus began his secret life as a nighttime vigilante, hunting for trouble. Masked and armed, he confronted anyone he deemed a threat to society. His twisted goal was to make potential criminals pay for their future sins in advance. To him, this brutal crusade wasn't fighting, it was delivering righteous judgment. Years later, he's still at it, landing a solid blow on a new challenger. He throws a seemingly casual punch at a young man who dared to face him. But the boy takes the hit without flinching, wondering if that light tap was just a test. The boy casually wipes his nose, completely unfazed by the first hit. He hadn't planned on fighting again, but this opportunity seems too good to pass up. The masked vigilante questions his motives, trying to justify his own aggression. But the young challenger isn't here for a conversation, cracking his knuckles with a wild grin. This blatant disrespect instantly enrages the self-proclaimed judge of evil. With the pleasantries out of the way, the two square up for a real fight. The vigilante unleashes a rapid series of jabs, testing the boy's defenses. To his surprise, the kid effortlessly weaves through the punches with a smirk. Realizing his opponent is skilled, the masked man switches tactics to obscure his vision. He then throws a powerful blinding strike, aiming to end this quickly. The masked man pauses, silently acknowledging the boy's unexpected resilience. Despite his bruised arm, the kid's defense is holding up surprisingly well. Seeing this, the vigilante decides to ramp up the pressure with another assault. He lands a clean, staggering blow right across the boy's face. Before the kid can recover, a powerful kick sends him crashing backward. Suddenly, the boy has a horrifying realization about his opponent's cruel strategy. The vigilante is methodically targeting his pre-existing injuries with pinpoint accuracy. As if to prove the point, another calculated strike lands on a tender spot. Pushed to his absolute limit, the boy's pain turns into raw fury. With a defiant stomp, he changes his stance, ready to unleash his own brand of chaos. The vigilante coldly taunts the boy, pointing out his now useless arm. With a clenched fist, he promises that his brand of judgment offers no mercy. Instead of fear, the boy's body begins to tremble with an unsettling, manic energy. A wild, unnerving grin spreads across his face, completely baffling his opponent. The vigilante stares in disbelief, questioning why his victim is laughing in the face of defeat. Yet, in a moment of clarity, the boy admits to himself that he can't win this fight right now. He consciously lets go of his reckless fury, his hand relaxing from a tight fist. Covering his face, he decides he can't throw away this opportunity by simply enjoying the battle. A new cold focus appears in his eyes as he resolves to be cautious and suppress his battle-crazed smile. His mind recalls a powerful lesson. Even the legendary figure he admires didn't always win. He admits the thrill of battle was undeniable, a pure, raw enjoyment. But the desire for victory now burned far brighter than the fleeting fun of the fight. With newfound clarity, he forcefully reined in his chaotic emotions. Instead of rushing in, he began to meticulously analyze his opponent's every weakness. He expertly ducks under a wild swing, his eyes locked on the target. A perfectly timed counterpunch lands with devastating force, shattering the beast's guard. It becomes clear that the more he used his mind, the more potent his power grew. This strategic approach unlocked a new level of strength, a power known as Mu. His colossal foe staggers back, completely unprepared for this sudden shift in tactics. To truly evolve, he understood that Mu required him to suppress his wild instincts completely, but despite his attempts at control, a primal urge was bubbling to the surface. A wild, uncontrollable grin spreads across his face, revealing his true battle-hungry nature. This forces the protagonist to recall his own method, suppressing all emotion to achieve victory. He would even contort his face into a pained grimace to hide his excitement. His opponent, however, is completely baffled by this bizarre display. The masked man's patience wears thin as he clenches a fist, deeming his foe insane. Looking down, he questions if this whole fight is just a game to the boy. His frustration boils over as he demands an end to the strange antics. Suddenly, the masked fighter launches himself off a wall, descending with a powerful strike. As the attack nears, the boy's face darkens, his true intentions finally hidden. But instead of blocking, the boy stomps the ground, preparing an unconventional counter. He then sends a powerful wave of dirt and debris flying directly at his opponent. The masked fighter simply raises an arm, shielding himself from the predictable attack. He scoffs at the cheap trick, seeing it as nothing more than a desperate move. Using the brief distraction, the boy instantly closes the distance between them. With a condescending expression, he silently dares his opponent to continue the fight. This final taunt pushes the masked man over the edge, activating his extreme rage. He swings with all his might, channeling his fury into a single powerful blow. Yet the boy dodges the wild attack with almost insulting ease. The masked man's punch sails past, leaving him completely exposed to a counterattack. As the attack connects, the boy coolly analyzes his opponent's every move. A confident smirk appears as he realizes his foe's predictable, jaw-focused strategy. He recalls the origins of bare-knuckle combat from a much earlier era. Unlike his previous two opponents, this fighting style is a product of its time. Ancient fighters had to use a far more defensive style, dictated by the ground itself. The treacherous, uneven terrain made aggressive movements a dangerous liability. However, flattened ground and modern footwear allowed combat to evolve aggressively. This newfound stability let fighters unleash their full, ferocious potential. By understanding this aggressive nature, he knows exactly where his opponent is aiming. And with that foresight, he can effortlessly guide the attack right where he wants it. With his footing secured, he prepares to face the incoming wave. He effortlessly parries the coordinated assault from all sides. Suddenly, he finds himself in a tense standoff with their leader, but a swift strike from the baton brings him down to his knees. The masked man looms over him, mocking his apparent helplessness. Raising his weapon, the assailant prepares to end the fight for good. On the ground, the protagonist seems to accept his utter defeat. In that moment, he reflects on the unfamiliar taste of losing. Then a smirk appears as he recalls it's been 4 millennia since his last loss. And just like that, he turns the tables with a devastating counterattack. As the assailant moves in for the final blow, something suddenly rolls into view. He freezes, startled by the unexpected presence of another person. Suddenly, the protagonist cries out in reverence to a mysterious newcomer. The attacker is left utterly baffled by this sudden turn of events. In a flash of blue, a hooded figure blurs past him. This new combatant, armed and masked, sprints towards the fallen protagonist. Then, a massive moss-covered foot lands right in front of the protagonist. He looks up with a mix of shock and awe at the being he calls his lord. His eyes widen in disbelief as he finally recognizes the figure before him. But his mighty lord turns out to be a small, nervous-looking green monster. The protagonist's face darkens with a grim and vengeful resolve, but his grimace instantly melts into a disturbingly cheerful, battle-hungry grin. His little companion observes his master's sudden excitement for another fight. Leaping to his feet, he flexes his arm, determined to grow stronger in his current body. Suddenly, his arm begins to tremble uncontrollably, a painful reminder of his body's limits. Realizing his physical state is a problem, he turns to his companion with an urgent request. After a moment of confusion, the small creature confidently confirms it has the requested item. Then the little monster begins to strain intensely, preparing to produce the object. Its mouth gapes open to reveal a swirling crimson orb emerging from within. It presents the Dragon Bloodstone, a one-time healing artifact, regretting it didn't bring more. He takes the crimson orb, preparing to absorb its legendary healing power. With a confident smirk, he believes this single artifact will be more than enough. He crushes the stone in his palm, unleashing a brilliant surge of green energy. As the mystical light flows through him, the wounds on his arms instantly seal shut. Suddenly, his eyes widen in surprise as he senses an unexpected change. He clenches his fist, realizing the stone's effect is far more potent than mere healing. A strange power courses through his veins, making his muscles feel incredibly sensitive and strong. His little companion smugly reveals it added some of its own special magic to the mix. Looking at the leftover fragment, he notes there's still enough power for one more use. He then tosses the remaining piece of the enhanced stone back to the startled creature. He decides to save the powerful fragment for a rainy day, shocking his little companion. With a huff, the little dragon makes its utter disappointment known. Meanwhile, a completely different scene unfolds as a girl dotes on her pet lizard. She daydreams about how much fun it would be if her little pet could actually talk back. After some quality time, she gently places the lizard back into its enclosure. Waving goodbye, she heads off to school, leaving her pet behind. Back in the classroom, a student covered in bandages is surprisingly focused on his studies. A flashback reveals this studious boy is none other than the bandaged-up delinquent from before. He seems to have had a change of heart, deciding the delinquent life isn't for him anymore. Suddenly, the classroom door slides open, and the very person who inspired this change walks right in. The newcomer locks eyes with the studious boy, a confident smirk playing on his lips. He immediately challenges the bandaged student to a fight, much to his female companion's surprise. After that, he turns to the girl, cheekily telling her she's the reason he even showed up. With a menacing grin, he reveals his true intention. He's itching for a brawl. His companion is completely baffled by his sudden and bizarre change in attitude. As she awkwardly wishes him luck and leaves, a new conversation starts up in the hallway. A red-haired girl asks her friend if he's heard the rumor about the second-year neutered. While walking, she begins to tell the story of a second-year student who was constantly picked on. Her friend listens intently as they continue their gossip session up the stairs. She then reveals the bullied kid got extreme revenge, earning him a very intimidating nickname. The blue-haired student connects the dots, realizing the rumored neutered is the same guy he's been looking for. He recalls the blonde fighter's terrified reaction, wondering if the target was just a test subject. Meanwhile, the tan-skinned student walks off, relieved he narrowly avoided a pointless confrontation. Disappointed, the blue-haired boy crosses his arms, feeling like his day was a total waste. Back in class, he's completely bored, annoyed that everyone is too passive to fight. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he resolves to head to the training grounds for practice. As he leaves, he spots the tan-skinned student again, who is casually rubbing his neck. Suddenly, his sharp eyes lock onto the other student's arm, noticing something familiar. He analyzes the unique muscle structure, recognizing it instantly from a previous encounter. In a flash of insight, he realizes this is the very same person he fought the day before. He breaks into a cold sweat, struggling to process the shocking revelation. Suddenly, his former opponent charges at him with a wild, unsettling grin. Without a second thought, he turns and bolts down the hallway in a full-blown panic. His mind races, wondering if his identity has been exposed and this is payback. Elsewhere, a small, curious, dragon-like creature nudges the shoe of a passerby. The little creature looks up, flustered and confused by an unseen question. It's revealed to be a serious-looking girl in a school uniform who towers over the tiny being. She stares down with an unimpressed and stern expression on her face. But a moment later, a faint blush creeps across her cheeks, betraying her stoic facade. As she tries to walk past, the frantic creature waves its arms, desperately trying to get her to stop. Ignoring its protests, the girl's hand swoops down to grab the tiny being. Suddenly, she snatches it up, causing the creature to panic in her grasp. She holds it up to her face, shaking it while it struggles furiously against her. Powerless without its magic, the little dragon can only sweat in defeat. Then, the girl freezes, her mind reeling from the shock of hearing it speak. Her stern demeanor shatters, replaced by an overwhelming sense of adoration for its cuteness. At that moment, a boy arrives on the scene, surrounded by more of the little green creatures. One of them, completely drained, clings to his leg for support and apologizes for its weakness. The girl's attention immediately shifts to the newcomer, her serious expression returning. Pointing at the exhausted creature, she directs a pointed question at the boy. The boy casually explains the creature is simply a very obedient friend. Suddenly, a status effect reveals the class rep is overcome with a powerful sense of envy. He stares back at her with an unamused expression, waiting for her response. Meanwhile, the little creature clinging to his leg is absolutely petrified. With a sly grin, the boy dangles the terrified creature and offers to lend it to her. His unexpected proposal leaves the girl completely baffled and blushing. Next thing she knows, she's back in her room with the little creature now in her care. The creature stands defiantly, giving her the silent treatment, leaving her to wonder if it's mad. A flashback reveals the moment the boy held the sweating creature up like a prize. He then laid out his terms, offering the creature in exchange for her help in finding someone. Flustered and blushing, she reluctantly agrees to his bizarre proposal. Before she can process it, the boy snatches the little creature into the air. He then unceremoniously plops the creature right on top of her head. The boy instructs his little companion to stay with her for a while before returning. As he walks away, the creature panics, wondering where its master is going. With a confident smirk, the boy declares he's off to the training ground, leaving the two of them alone. Back in her room, the creature puffs out its chest and introduces itself as Yang, the master's secretary. Yang then lays down the law, demanding her full cooperation from now on. She can only stare in disbelief as the tiny creature bosses her around in her own room. The whole surreal situation sends her heart into a frantic, pounding rhythm. Realizing the creature serves Li Ho, she quickly agrees to cooperate, sealing the deal with a tiny handshake. To prove her usefulness, she confidently introduces herself as the class president. She then smugly reveals she's not just the leader, but also the top-ranked student in the entire class. Meanwhile, at the training ground, Li Ho unleashes a devastating blow against a practice pole. He clenches his fist, feeling the raw power coursing through him after the intense session. A satisfied smirk spreads across his face as he admires the results of his hard work. His satisfaction quickly fades into a serious gaze as he waits for someone. He glances around the empty training ground, questioning the absence of his usual rival. It dawns on him that his mysterious opponent is likely a student, and their paths are destined to cross. Leaving behind a testament to his strength, he walks away, confident in their future encounter. After leaving the training ground, the young man makes his way through the quiet city streets. A sharp scent in the air reminds him of the intense effort he just put in. Elsewhere, a girl with a tiny dragon companion browses an online store. She carefully selects clothes and bags, fulfilling a very specific shopping list. The tiny dragon confirms her identity, recognizing the scent of the body its master now inhabits. Once the task is done, the creature bids her farewell and zips out the window. Dashing across the rooftops with surprising speed, it heads towards its target. In a flash, the little dragon lands squarely on the young man's shoulder, grabbing his attention. Beaming with pride, it reports the mission a success, gesturing towards a shadowy figure in a nearby alley. The creature declares that the person it recruited now pledges their unwavering loyalty to him. Suddenly, the little dragon's nose twitches, catching a peculiar scent in the air. It urgently alerts its master that something is amiss nearby. Below them, in a secluded alley, a hooded figure confronts another man. The man on the ground recognizes his assailant, accusing him of a past misdeed. Without warning, the hooded man swiftly silences the accuser with a single decisive blow. Through cracked goggles, he glares down, unimpressed by the criminal's final words. His true target now in sight, he confirms that his search is finally over. Just then, a sound from above snaps his attention away from his grim task. Looking up, he sees the young man and the little dragon peering down, the creature waving wildly. But the dragon isn't focused on him. It's now frantically pointing towards a nearby building, distressed by a terrible smell. The young man's gaze hardens while the hooded figure breaks into a nervous sweat. Without a word, he takes a deliberate step forward, closing the distance between them. As the hooded man raises a hand to de-escalate, he tries to explain it's all a misunderstanding. But the young man unleashes a sudden lightning-fast kick, ignoring the plea entirely. Caught completely off guard, the hooded man instinctively raises his arms to block the incoming attack. The powerful blow connects, sending the hooded figure stumbling backward from the sheer force. A wild, unsettling grin spreads across the young man's face as he presses his assault. Their eyes lock in a fierce stare-down, a silent challenge passing between the two combatants. Now squared up, both fighters assume their stances, the air crackling with tension. Yet, while one smirks with battle lust, the other stands firm. Having never wanted this conflict, suddenly the hooded man is grabbed from behind, completely blindsided by a third party. A furious new challenger appears, brandishing a weapon with clear intent to harm. With a roar of fury, the attacker brings his weapon down in a vicious overhead swing. The hooded figure plants his feet, preparing to react in a split second. He expertly dodges the blow, the weapon narrowly missing its intended target. But his evasion places his original opponent directly in the weapon's new trajectory. A horrifying realization dawns on him as he understands the consequence of his dodge. The young man, however, seems unfazed, merely looking on with a curious expression. As the weapon descends, it's clear the young man is about to take the full force of the strike. Yet, a chilling smirk plays on his lips, almost welcoming the impact. In a stunning twist, the young man explodes into action, turning on the other combatant. The weapon slices through the air, a spinning blur of dark metal. With impossible speed, he snatches the weapon mid-swing, stopping it cold. The intended victim can only grimace, the weapon now held inches from his face. His eyes widen in sheer disbelief and terror at the sudden turn of events. Then, with a savage grin, the young man delivers a brutal headbutt. Reeling from the impact, the man stumbles back, completely disoriented. Before he can recover, he's met with a merciless barrage of strikes to his body. Each blow, whether from a fist or the captured weapon, lands with punishing force. The assault ends, leaving the man crumpled on the ground as his attacker stands over him. He flashes a triumphant, almost unhinged smile, relishing his victory. But that exhilaration quickly fades, replaced by a look of utter boredom. He reflects on his past, realizing such an easy fight offers no real challenge. His thoughts drift to a true rival, the one opponent who could actually push his limits. With a sigh, he's left completely underwhelmed by the lack of a proper fight. Suddenly, a flicker of movement catches his attention, and he whips his head around. He scans the alley, realizing the mysterious masked man he was just thinking of has vanished. It turns out his rival had already made a swift escape during the commotion. As the masked man wonders how he's constantly being tracked, his pursuer appears right behind him. A silent understanding dawns on the masked man as he realizes he's been cornered once again. His pursuer, however, flashes a disturbingly thrilled grin, clearly relishing the chase. As the masked man flees, a small green creature, distracted by hunger, wanders directly into his path. Without breaking stride, he accidentally sends the little monster flying in a comical collision. He continues his desperate escape, leaving the dazed creature behind in a classic hit-and-run. Reaching a safe house, he quickly slips inside and slams the door shut. Once inside, he wearily removes his shoes, the exhaustion of the chase finally hitting him. He's haunted by his rival's ecstatic expression, wondering what kind of person enjoys fighting so much. Suddenly, a woman with a fierce grin appears from behind, announcing her arrival as a prosecutor. This is Kang Hyun-ah, a prosecutor who now dedicates her life to bringing down criminals. He glares at the prosecutor blocking his path, but she stands firm with a smug look. She tests his resolve, commenting on how he doesn't even flinch from the pain. As his face flushes with anger, she calmly requests a bowl of ramen, no egg. He recalls a specific day that hardened him, making him immune to her taunts. A flashback shows a time when his punches were driven by nothing but pure rage. While preparing his meal, he reflects on how boxing wasn't always like this for him. Sitting alone in his quiet apartment, he gets lost in memories of his past. The scene shifts to a brighter time, showing him as a student on a bustling street. In this memory, a younger version of his rival walks with a strange green creature on his shoulder. His classmates are completely baffled, questioning if he brought a Komodo dragon to school. The blue-haired student, however, remains cool and unfazed by the commotion he's causing. Suddenly, a curious female classmate approaches, her attention fixed on the strange creature. After a moment, she erupts in excitement, enthusiastically waving goodbye to the little green guy. He then turns to her with a serious expression, questioning if she understood a message from his companion. In a sudden shift of tone, he offers her a deal. Help him find someone and she can borrow the creature. Recognizing the description of a masked fighter, she suggests the person he's looking for is Iljimai. She elaborates that Iljimai is a notorious figure, known for dealing with anyone who crosses him. Looking concerned, she questions why he got into a conflict, but he coolly feigns ignorance. With a determined glare, he vows that their next encounter will be the last, as his target won't escape again. He then gives a chilling order to the terrified student behind him, telling him to wait right there until he returns. As he walks off, the student he threatened trembles in fear, leaving the girl utterly bewildered by the exchange. The girl, still utterly bewildered by the situation, questions their mysterious connection. With a wicked grin, he confirms his target is none other than the infamous Iljimai. Back in the classroom, he cracks his knuckles, a predatory smile signaling his anticipation. He struggles to sit still, his legs trembling with the sheer effort of holding back his excitement for the fight. Even his little dragon companion seems to vibrate with confusion from all the pent-up energy. An announcement then echoes through the school, detailing the schedule for the night study group. As class ends, he hands his nauseous-looking dragon plushie to the girl, stating he has business to attend to. She blushes furiously, clutching the plushie with delight as he walks off to handle his business. After he disappears from sight, she stands for a moment, looking thoughtfully in the direction he went. The now empty hallway seems to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable confrontation to begin. The classroom door slides open, signaling the confrontation is about to begin. Inside, the blue-haired student greets his visitor with a chilling, expectant grin. His rival steps into the room, his expression grim and ready for what's to come. Without a word, the challenger slips on a pair of fighting gloves, making his intentions clear. The blue-haired boy observes the preparation, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. His opponent then questions if he actually enjoys the thrill of battle. Looking down, the blue-haired student calmly denies any love for fighting, calling it a misconception. He then recalls the intense physical sensations of a fight, from the shock of impact to the strain on his body. A flashback reveals that only the struggle for survival has ever made him feel truly alive, framing it as a necessity. Yet, his face betrays him with a look of pure, blushing excitement, a stark contrast to his serious words. His opponent reaches into his tactical vest, pulling out a little surprise. He then tosses a pair of weighted fighting gloves over to the blue-haired student. After catching them with a confident smirk, the student seems more than happy to accept the challenge. The challenger drops his bag, signaling for the real fight to finally begin. Despite claiming he can't fight a non-thug, the blue-haired boy immediately lunges forward with a wild grin. His first punch is swiftly intercepted, blocked with casual ease by his opponent. The challenger looks completely unfazed, criticizing the boy's reckless opening move. While dodging another attack, he seems to question the reason for this sudden, intense confrontation. Planting his foot firmly on the ground, the opponent prepares to launch a counterattack. A wisp of steam rises from his fist as he realizes this unexpected battle is actually quite exhilarating. With a menacing grin, the opponent declares, "This is no mere brawl. This is boxing." The challenger smirks, admitting the boy's power is dangerous but still manageable for him. His attacker is ecstatic, finding the sheer intensity of a real fight to be exhilarating. In a sudden shift, a red-haired student is shown fast asleep during class, his stomach rumbling. He is abruptly jolted from his slumber, startled and disoriented. The scene reveals a full classroom of students diligently focused on their night self-study session. Wiping his mouth, the groggy student slowly regains his awareness. Someone else had been watching, leaving a curious note questioning his constant napping. After the session, the boy finds the note and a snack left on his desk, realizing he has somewhere to be. Clutching the items, he bolts from the classroom and dashes up the stairs with newfound urgency. He arrives on the rooftop, munching on the snack with a tired yet focused gaze. As he eats, his attention is drawn to a sound coming from a classroom below. Peering through the window, he spots someone moving inside the empty room. Inside, a blue-haired student unleashes a flurry of lightning-fast punches. His opponent is sent stumbling backward, struggling to keep his footing. Suddenly, a foot stops just inches from the larger student's face, a clear warning. The blue-haired boy then launches a devastating high kick, which is barely blocked. His opponent is stunned, questioning the unexpected kick from a supposed boxer. In response, the blue-haired fighter feigns ignorance about boxing, crouching into a new stance. He then prepares to launch another swift attack from his low position. With a smug grin, he mockingly questions the very rules of their fight. He then brings his foot down with crushing force on his grounded opponent. His adversary can only grimace, the pain from the unorthodox attack written all over his face. Following up instantly, the blue-haired fighter launches himself forward with a brutal knee strike. But the larger student shows his grit, barely managing to block the powerful blow. He's left reeling, completely unprepared for the incredible force behind a simple kick. Seeing his opponent still standing, the attacker switches tactics, aiming a low kick to sweep his leg. A wave of panic hits the larger student as he realizes his balance is about to be shattered. The kick lands perfectly, striking the vulnerable joint in his leg. As a result, his knee buckles instantly, his entire stance collapsing from the targeted strike. He presses his advantage, launching another kick while his opponent is still unstable. After that, they create distance, circling each other like predators sizing up their prey. With a triumphant grin, the blue-haired student believes the fight is finally over. Suddenly, a notification appears, signaling the abrupt and inconvenient end of his power-up. As his strength fades, his opponent notices the sudden, fearful shift in his demeanor. The gray-haired student's expression turns into a menacing smirk, sensing his foe's newfound weakness. He begins to mock the now powerless student, his own confidence soaring. In response, the blue-haired boy can only muster a strained, nervous laugh. The tables have turned completely, with one student's booming laughter overpowering the other's fear. While the victor's taunts fill the room, an unknown figure watches the entire confrontation from a distance. The red-haired observer scoffs at the scene, finding the whole display pathetic. He turns his back on the confrontation, completely unimpressed by the fighters. With a final sneer of disgust, the mysterious student walks away. Back in the classroom, the blue-haired boy squares up against his opponent, ready for another round. He takes a defensive stance, a confident smirk suggesting a new strategy. In response, his rival lunges forward, throwing a powerful, aggressive punch. As if guided by an unseen hand, the blue-haired boy dodges and counters with a swift kick. He stumbles awkwardly, his body moving in ways that even seem to surprise himself. Suddenly, he pivots and delivers a powerful blow directly to his foe's jaw. The sheer force of his own punch sends him flying backward across the room. He smirks, acknowledging that his current body can't match his opponent's raw power. A memory of a forbidden third ability flashes through his mind, a power he desperately needs. Suddenly, he grabs his own shirt as a strange energy begins to surge within him. He drops to his knees, momentarily struggling to control the overwhelming new sensation. After that, he rises with a confident grin, purple energy now crackling around his hands. He channels this mysterious power, concentrating it all into one tightly clenched fist. With a burst of speed, he lunges forward, throwing a punch at his surprised rival. The glowing fist hurtles directly towards his opponent's face with immense force. However, his rival catches the punch effortlessly, mocking its apparent weakness. The rival's smug look vanishes as he realizes his attacker has instantly appeared behind him. Before the rival can fully turn, a swift strike connects with the side of his head. Completely disoriented, he questions the strange, rapid-fire assault he's experiencing. He manages to grab his opponent's arm, dismissing the blows as weak despite feeling dizzy. As he tries to focus, a mysterious energy begins to swirl around them. The rival narrows his eyes, trying to anticipate what other tricks are coming his way. Instead of another punch, he's met with a sudden, powerful headbutt right to the face. The sheer force of the unexpected attack sends him flying backward in agony. A confident grin spreads across the attacker's face, confirming his new theory works. The secret to his power is then explained, starting with the basics of gathering mana for magic. But his unique method also draws in atmospheric particles, creating an entirely different effect. The explanation reveals that on a world without mana, his power works in a completely different way. He demonstrates this by gathering not magic, but the very air around his fingertip. This condensed air is then unleashed in a powerful, explosive burst he never intended to use. Looking down at his fallen opponent, he finds this turn of events unexpectedly interesting. His intrigue quickly morphs into a disturbingly wide and excited grin. But the defeated fighter suddenly grabs him by the face in a last-ditch effort. The downed man furiously rejects whatever strange notion his opponent seems to have. Staggering back, he admits defeat but warns him not to cross a certain line. Completely flustered, he clutches his head, promising there will be a next time. He then makes a hasty retreat, leaving the victor watching his undignified exit. The victor smirks triumphantly, the taste of victory still fresh. Later that evening, under a blood-red sky, a new task is underway. Meanwhile, a small green creature struggles to carry an impossibly heavy sack. After receiving its instructions from a girl with glasses, the creature sets off on its mission. The tiny courier makes its way through the deserted city streets, burdened by its mysterious cargo. Suddenly, it spots a familiar face, the student from the earlier fight, who has just realized he forgot something. In a flash, the creature is sent flying, recognizing its accidental assailant with shock. But instead of cowering, the little being clenches its fist, filled with a sudden, fiery resolve. The dazed student, still reeling from his defeat, notices the strange creature getting back up. Before he can react, the tiny dragon-like creature launches a surprisingly ferocious counterattack. The student recoils in shock as the creature latches onto his arm with unexpected ferocity. A swift punch sends the tiny assailant flying, leaving the student to wonder what just attacked him. As the student departs, a new shadow looms over the small, unconscious creature on the rooftop. The protagonist stops, completely baffled by the strange green being now lying at his feet. Later, he walks down the street, having unknowingly adopted the creature as a backpack accessory. The little being's horns peek out from the bag, which it seems to be treating as new clothes. Tucked away, the creature smugly assesses the performance of its new, unwitting subordinate. While the protagonist focuses on staying unnoticed, he fails to spot his former opponent nearby. Just then, the student from the fight calls out, stopping him in his tracks. The bruised fighter eyes him with suspicion, questioning his school uniform on a Saturday. The protagonist genuinely has no idea what a Saturday is, leaving his opponent baffled. His strange response only deepens the other student's suspicion and confusion. The student then confronts him, suggesting he enjoys fighting, but the protagonist claims it's just a necessity. Yet, his disturbingly thrilled expression completely contradicts his words, unnerving the other guy. Seeing a kindred spirit, the bruised fighter invites him to hang out. He promises an end to boredom without the need for brawls, which seems to catch the protagonist's attention. A sinister grin spreads across the protagonist's face as he wildly misinterprets the offer. He eagerly agrees to the plan, complimenting the student on his brilliant idea. Wasting no time, he immediately demands to be taken to a place where he can fight. As the protagonist questions if he's been tricked, the creature in his bag tenses up in annoyance. Friday morning arrives at Giryogi High School, setting the stage for more trouble. The focus narrows to a sign for the student council's private restroom. A student is denied entry, finding the restroom has been restricted for a private meeting. Inside, a tense confrontation unfolds as a large student demands money from a smaller one. The nervous student reluctantly hands over a meager sum of cash. His offering is met with pure rage, as the larger student Yangzhou deems it completely insufficient. The smaller student internally blames a mysterious figure named Iljimai for his financial failure. Yangzhou's frustration explodes as he smashes his fist into the wall, blaming Iljimai for his problems. Staring at the damage, he realizes this pathetic amount won't even begin to cover his debts. With a look of grim determination, he issues a command to gather the entire crew. On a Saturday evening, two rivals walk the streets, one restlessly scanning their surroundings. The bandaged student admits their last fight awakened a new, thrilling appreciation for a good brawl. His blue-haired companion proposes they skip the small fry and face each other instead. Promising an inevitable rematch, the bandaged fighter's attention is suddenly caught by something ahead. Both of them stop, their expressions hardening as they sense an unusual presence. He sniffs the air, identifying the overwhelming scent of cigarette smoke. The sheer thickness of the smoke suggests a massive crowd is waiting for them. Preparing for the worst, he slips on his goggles, understanding this is likely an ambush. Through the haze, two of Yangzhou's crew members are seen casually waiting for their targets. As a figure emerges from the smoke, the crew members grin, thinking they've just found their prize. One of the thugs tries to intimidate the hooded figure, planning to take everything he has. He confidently grabs the figure's collar, demanding his wallet and identity with a smug grin. Without a word, the hooded man responds with a devastating punch that sends the thug flying. The second crew member stares in utter shock as his partner is taken down in a single blow. Panic spreads through the crowd as they finally recognize their opponent is the infamous Iljimai. Iljimai assesses the situation, realizing the ambush is far larger than he anticipated. Just then, a second hooded figure appears, eagerly announcing he's ready to join the fray. The duo wastes no time, launching themselves directly into the heart of the enemy gang. While the second figure eagerly awaits a challenger, the first thug, still on the ground, grabs his ankle. The dazed goon glares up, angrily questioning if this newcomer is also one of their enemies. The newcomer flushes in utter shock, questioning the thug's bizarre choice of attack. Without hesitation, he retaliates with a merciless blow, officially entering the brawl. Moments later, the alley is littered with unconscious bodies, a testament to the duo's overwhelming power. The second figure coldly assesses their defeated foes, unimpressed by their weak physical state. Amidst the chaos, a small, heart-adorned wallet is spotted on the ground. Iljimai picks up the wallet and approaches the person they were protecting to check on them. The red-haired individual looks up, visibly shaken and emotional from the recent assault. Suddenly, a memory flashes through Iljimai's mind, connecting this person to someone from his past. While Iljimai is distracted, the rescued person is quickly escorted away by another individual. Just then, his companion urgently warns him of a new wave of enemies appearing right behind them. A text message blasts out Iljimai's exact location, leaving him completely exposed. An enraged gang leader, phone in hand, rallies his crew after finally tracking down his target. Iljimai grips his weapon, his patience wearing thin as he prepares for the inevitable confrontation. As an enemy sneaks up from behind, his companion seems oddly thrilled by the imminent danger. The companion's face flushes with excitement, revealing a strange enthusiasm for the coming battle. With a furious command, the enemy leader unleashes his entire crew in a chaotic charge. A maniacal grin spreads across one fighter's face, absolutely reveling in the pandemonium. Watching from the sidelines, another individual looks on with complete disgust at the unfolding brawl. His expression hardens as he silently judges the pointless conflict before him. Meanwhile, Iljame's ally swiftly neutralizes a foe, continuing to protect the person they rescued. A painful memory surfaces, questioning the very foundation of his past. We see his father in his prime, a celebrated and undefeated mixed martial arts champion. To the young boy, his father was the ultimate symbol of strength and heroism. But behind the glory, a dark and dangerous habit began to take root. As the father's physical power grew unnaturally, his mind began to fracture. The boy could only watch helplessly as his hero descended into madness. Soon, his childhood admiration twisted into pure, unadulterated terror. The champion of the ring became a terrifying monster within his own home. While his mother fled the escalating chaos, the boy was left behind to endure it all. He was forced to find shelter in the smallest, darkest corners of the house. But he wasn't just protecting himself. He had his younger sibling to shield from the darkness. So Heijin endured the endless torment, his body battered but his resolve hardening with every blow. He studied the image of the champion, preparing to face the monster his father had become. As time passed, he grew stronger, and the stage was set for an inevitable confrontation. With his life hanging by a thread, Heijin finally fought back against his tormentor. For him, fighting was no longer a sport. It was a brutal lesson in survival. The monster roared with fury, enraged by the boy's sudden and shocking defiance. A murderous glint in his father's eyes revealed his ultimate, terrifying intention. That day, the house fell silent after a final, tragic confrontation. After facing the law, the court's sympathy for his ordeal allowed him to eventually return to school. After school, he took on grueling construction work to support his younger sibling. His body was his only asset, a precious tool he couldn't afford to damage. This discipline made him despise those who recklessly threw their bodies into pointless fights. He vowed to never engage in such careless behavior himself, but that vow had one very important exception. When his younger sibling, Daljin, was threatened, all his rules went out the window. The sight of his sibling in danger awakened a cold, protective fury. Just then, a mysterious man appeared, standing over one of the downed thugs. As the newcomer looked around for someone, he failed to notice the real danger approaching from behind. Mistaking him for a foe, Heijin unleashed a powerful and decisive kick. The stranger's eyes widen in sheer shock as the powerful impact lifts him off his feet. Before he can recover, Heijin grabs him by the hair, his face a mask of cold fury. With no hesitation, he slams the man's face directly into the hard pavement. From the downed man's bag, a small creature emerges, trying to wake its unconscious master. The creature's concern turns to panic as it sees another attack coming right for it. Having dealt with the immediate threat, Heijin's intense gaze sweeps the alley for more foes. Just then, another masked individual arrives, his eyes widening at the chaotic scene. He watches, bewildered, as Heijin moves like a blur, taking down two more opponents. The thugs stumble back in a daze, leaving the newcomer utterly confused by the display. Without breaking his stride, Heijin unleashes a devastating spinning kick on the remaining thugs. Heijin's eyes glow with fury, silently vowing that his opponents have crossed a line. Suddenly, the girl on the ground recognizes the masked newcomer as her brother, stopping everyone in their tracks. The newcomer is completely stunned by this unexpected family reunion. He stares down at the girl, trying to process this shocking twist in the middle of the fight. A flash of frustrated realization crosses his face as the situation becomes infinitely more complicated. Wasting no time, he lands a swift blow on Heijin, creating a desperate opening. He then yells for his sister to run as an enraged Heijin glares after them. As she scrambles away, a small blue pouch tumbles unnoticed from her pocket. Heijin's pursuit comes to an abrupt halt as his sharp eyes lock onto the fallen item. While he's distracted by the pouch, a new, formidable figure appears and blocks the alleyway. The formidable figure explodes in rage, questioning the identity of the newcomer. In response, the mysterious boy simply tightens his fist, preparing to answer with action. His punch connects with brutal precision, warping the man's face on impact. The single clean blow sends the larger man staggering backward, completely caught off guard. While the brother watches in stunned silence, the newcomer flashes a terrifyingly wide grin. With the formidable man now neutralized on the ground, the entire situation has been flipped on its head. The boy lets out a manic laugh, only for his masked ally to insist he hide his face. Barely conscious, the man groans as he attempts to recover from the powerful strike. He glares up at his assailants, understanding the danger of them being seen. Despite the pain, his expression hardens into one of absolute seething rage. A man begins a briefing by sketching a crude portrait of their target, Yang Zhou. He explains to his companion that this individual is a notorious local delinquent. Then, he maps out the territories of 3 major high school troublemakers in the area. The first member of this powerful alliance is identified as Gurogi Hai's Yang Zhou. He reveals the other two members, unveiling their collective infamous nickname, Godori. While the group was once relatively tame, two of its members have recently started extorting people on the streets. A flashback reveals the very thugs they recently disciplined were working for this notorious group. With a flourish of his marker, he confidently declares Yang Zhou as the ringleader behind it all. His partner, however, stares back with a look of complete and utter confusion. The boy is completely baffled by the talk of delinquents, extortion, and this mysterious Godori group. The partner's frustration boils over as he questions the boy's intelligence. Suddenly, a small green creature in the backpack decides it has heard enough. It leaps out in a fury, startling the partner with its sudden appearance. The creature fiercely defends its master, enraged by the insults. Completely stunned, the partner can only stare and wonder if he's looking at a talking frog. The boy awkwardly introduces his companion, Yang, who is deeply offended by the frog comment. This bizarre situation only deepens the partner's suspicion, noting the boy's odd gaps in knowledge. He lists the evidence: ignorance of basic concepts and a talking creature as a companion. A sly grin spreads across the boy's face as he commends the human's sharp perception. He then makes a grand declaration of being a god, which his partner immediately misinterprets as him being an alien. The partner dismisses the god claim, questioning the boy's sanity while Yang fumes over being called a frog. Meanwhile, the class president, mending clothes, wonders why this chaotic group has invaded her home. Suddenly, her stoic expression melts as she becomes completely captivated by the adorable Yang. As she fawns over the creature, the partner refocuses the conversation on their true target, the formidable Yang Zhou. At the mention of that name, the partner's face contorts with rage, remembering a past grievance. The boy recalls the fight, admitting the encounter stirred a long-dormant feeling within him. A flashback reveals the staggering difference in size and power between him and his opponent. He then breaks into a crazed grin, thrilled by the return of a sensation he thought he'd overcome. After composing himself, he declares his need for training, prompting his partner to offer a spot at his gym. The boy, however, coolly rejects the offer, stating that simple brawling isn't the training he requires. He contemplates needing a rougher, more intense form of training, sparking an unusual excitement in his companion. While he thinks, his small green friend seems to be searching for the perfect answer. The creature then zips over, eagerly presenting a phone with a suggestion for its master. He looks down at the screen, puzzled by the image of a red-haired fighter. The video on the phone displays a powerful strike landing squarely on an opponent. Following the decisive blow, the challenger in the video is shown completely incapacitated. The stream then highlights the victor's impressive 13-win streak and the prize money for their defeat. As he watches, a flicker of recognition crosses his face, catching his partner's attention. The screen reveals the fighter's name and affiliation, linking them to the Godori group. His partner confirms that this new fighter is indeed from the same crew as his previous adversary. He rises with a confident smirk, having locked in his new objective. His two-step plan is clear: take out Yang Zhou, then dismantle the entire Godori crew. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a realm where immense dark energy tears through the ground. A desolate landscape, the domain of the Earth God, is revealed with a powerful figure at its heart. This being stands revealed, a horned entity with shadowy wings and crackling power in his hands. His glowing eyes narrow with intense concentration, surveying his domain. Then, a mysterious, shimmering orb materializes above the shattered Earth. Inside the orb, the planet Earth itself becomes visible, shining with a brilliant light. The Earth God's expression twists into pure fury and disbelief. He then recalls his own defeat, enraged by how effortlessly his opponent bested him. The Earth God roars in frustration, questioning why his power is failing him. Elsewhere, a brutish man mirrors that rage, cursing his own circumstances in a grimy bathroom. His tough guy act crumbles into fear when he's confronted and handed a student ID. The ID card, belonging to a Li Daljun, is dropped unceremoniously on the floor. A close-up reveals the photo of a smug-looking high schooler on the card. After his mysterious encounter, the man picks up the ID and examines it closely. A wicked smile forms as he realizes this little card could be very useful. The next day, a new student walks towards school, carrying a small creature in his backpack. His tiny companion carefully studies a hand-drawn map to guide their way. While the student follows the map down an alley, a shadowy figure begins to follow him. The student's quiet walk is interrupted by a jogger and his tiny, seemingly harmless dog. As they pass, the dog's leash gets hopelessly tangled around the student's ankle. For a moment, the little pup looks up with the most innocent, wide-eyed expression. But that innocence shatters, replaced by a face of pure, snarling embarrassment. The dog's embarrassment quickly morphs into unbridled rage, directed at the student's backpack. With a furious leap, the tiny dog launches itself directly at the green creature. The sudden attack yanks the jogger to a halt, leaving the student completely bewildered. A silent, terrified scream escapes the green creature as the dog stares it down with murderous intent. The creature's fear turns to fury, silently promising a terrible fate for the dog once its powers return. Unaware of the life-or-death drama on his back, the student finally reaches his destination. A red-haired girl diligently fills out her application, while the student mercilessly rejects the others. He's surprised to see her, questioning her presence at Badulgi High on a weekend. After she confirms the location, he looks at her with utter confusion, wondering what she wants. With the location confirmed, she immediately quizzes him on his experience. The student seems taken aback, pondering what kind of experience she could possibly mean. She clarifies she's looking for any kind of combat experience for a broadcast. He takes a moment to mentally calculate, counting back through an impossibly long time. With a confident smirk, he casually claims to have about 3 million years of fighting experience. His absurd answer leaves the other applicants in the line completely stunned. Delighted by his outrageous confidence, the girl instantly accepts him into the program. The girl cheerfully informs him of a hefty entry fee, catching him completely off guard. Suddenly, his little green companion produces a wad of cash from seemingly nowhere. Elsewhere, a young woman desperately searches for her missing pink wallet. As the creature counts the bills, it becomes clear they don't have the full amount. Amused by the situation, the girl generously decides to waive the remaining fee. With his entry secured, he confidently steps forward to join the other participants. A quick glance back reveals his strange little friend is still along for the ride. His attention is then drawn to a mysterious hooded individual observing from a distance. His gaze sharpens, instantly analyzing this new potential opponent. Through his experienced eyes, he discerns the incredible power hidden beneath the stranger's clothes. Just then, a flustered man rushes over, questioning if he'd even seen the broadcast. While shoving a paper forward, he insists that unsanctioned fights are strictly forbidden. The sheet reveals a full tournament bracket with a 1,000,001 prize on the line. With several fighters already crossed out, the competition is clearly well underway. As an announcer calls for the 4th match to begin, 2 new fighters take their places. One combatant, the 3 million years fighter, flashes an absurdly confident smirk. Facing him is a serene disciple of Chinese martial arts, assuming a respectful stance. Suddenly, a bag is hurled from the crowd, interrupting the pre-fight tension. Erupting from the bag, the little green friend soars through the air, stunning the onlookers below. After a perfect landing, the creature strikes a pose, now sporting a menacing horned mask. The blue-haired fighter looks down, utterly confused by his little green friend's actions. From the crowd, an intense unseen force issues a powerful summons. A small brown creature materializes in a blur, spinning like a furry tornado. It skids to a halt between the fighters, looking just as bewildered as the onlookers. The martial arts student recognizes the tiny beast, shocked that his own pet has escaped. A girl in the crowd watches with sparkling eyes, completely captivated by the chaotic turn of events. An announcer seizes the moment, declaring the fight is now a master and pet team battle. The first official matchup is displayed, the 3 million years fighter versus the Chinese martial arts student. Then, the pet showdown is revealed, pitting the tiny dragon against the ferocious-looking chihuahua. As the teams face off, the crowd murmurs in awe at the sight of the winged, horned lizard. With the crowd buzzing, an excited girl points as the announcer officially begins the match. The martial arts student calmly explains his technique, a style that imitates the movements of animals. He then forms his hand into a claw, warning that an unarmed human stands little chance against a beast. Suddenly, he lunges forward in a low, predatory stance, closing the distance in an instant. Unleashing his tiger style, he attempts a swift strike designed to break his opponent's defense. He prepares to follow up with a powerful blow, confident his initial move was a success. But his face twists in agony as he realizes he's been devastatingly countered. In a shocking turn, the martial artist is laid out on the ground, completely defeated in a single exchange. The blue-haired student looks on, unimpressed, dismissing the animal imitation as nothing special. Clutching his chest, the fallen fighter painfully acknowledges the overwhelming power he just faced. A cold sweat breaks as the defeated fighter grapples with his crushing reality. He feels as though he's facing an insurmountable wall, a chasm of power he cannot cross. With grim determination, he decides he has no choice but to unleash a hidden technique. Ignoring his master's warning about a forbidden art, he prepares to cross the line. He slams his hand to the ground, initiating the dangerous transformation. Dropping into a bizarre, animal-like stance, he catches his opponent's full attention. The blue-haired student watches with a curious gaze, wondering what's coming next. Elsewhere, a small green creature finds itself in a similarly desperate situation, gasping for breath. The creature laments its poor combat skills as a tiny but ferocious dog enters the fray. In a flash, the miniature canine launches itself through the air for a surprisingly powerful attack. The tiny dog charges forward with terrifying speed and a wild look in its eyes. Suddenly, its paws dig into the ground, executing a move with surprising precision. The green creature recoils in horror as the single canine seemingly splits into three identical attackers. Onlookers gasp in disbelief, questioning if they're witnessing some kind of ninja dog technique. A system window reveals the dog's trump card, a Chihuahua-type skill named Cerberus. Desperately, the little green monster tries to point out the real attacker among the clones, but its guess proves fatally wrong as the real dog closes in from an unexpected angle. The Chihuahua lands a decisive blow, overwhelming the small creature with a flurry of attacks. After a brilliant feint, the tiny canine stands victorious over its completely dominated opponent. With the battle decided, the ferocious Chihuahua holds its ground as the focus shifts elsewhere. As the scene changes, a new fighter drops to the ground, assuming a strange, four-legged starting position. He fully commits to the bizarre stance, entering what is called quadrupedal mode. With a powerful lunge, he shoots forward with animalistic speed and intensity. The fighter charges across the arena on all fours, closing in on his stationary opponent. His unconventional style draws immediate ridicule as the crowd erupts in laughter. An elderly spectator, however, looks on with utter disappointment at the spectacle. The old man's face sinks with profound embarrassment, as if he'd warned against this very display. Undeterred, the quadrupedal fighter gets right in his opponent's face, ready to attack. The blue-haired fighter coolly analyzes the low stance, spotting a critical weakness. Suddenly, he counters with his own technique, unleashing a massive tiger's paw from above. The massive tiger paw connects, sending a brutal shockwave across his face. While the quadrupedal fighter lands perfectly, his opponent stumbles back, reeling from the blow. He contemplates the sheer force of the strike, realizing it felt less like a hand and more like a beast's paw. A chilling thought crosses his mind: that single attack could have been the end of him. Before he can recover, his opponent is already coiled on the ground, ready for another round. The blue-haired fighter looks up in disbelief as the same overwhelming pressure descends upon him again. A bizarre flurry of animal-style techniques follows, targeting him from multiple angles. Suddenly, a powerful kick reminiscent of a horse strikes him squarely in the side. He gasps, baffled by the incredible muscle control required for such quadrupedal movements. For the first time, the blue-haired fighter realizes he cannot predict his opponent's next move. He grins maniacally, desperately searching for a way to counter this bizarre fighting style. Suddenly, his eyes land on a small dog and a spark of inspiration hits him. He realizes that if his opponent fights like an animal, he should be treated like one. With this new perspective, he deduces that all four-legged creatures must share similar weaknesses. He immediately puts his theory to the test, preparing to stomp down on his grounded foe. By instantly expanding the muscles in his leg, he prepares to unleash a devastating blow. The resulting impact shatters the stone ground, but his opponent narrowly evades the strike. Instead of stopping, he uses the immense force of the stomp to launch himself high into the air. Onlookers are left stunned, capturing the fighter's impossibly high leap on their phones. His opponent looks up in terror, realizing the real attack is about to come from directly above. He comes crashing down from the sky, landing a decisive blow directly on his opponent's head. Using his foe's back as a springboard, he drives the larger fighter face first into the stone ground. Standing victoriously on his fallen opponent, he smirks, having exploited a critical weakness from above. The crowd is stunned into silence, their bets lost as the match ends in a shocking upset. But his victory is short-lived as his attention immediately shifts to another fight happening elsewhere. While standing over his defeated rival, he is suddenly confronted by a tiny, furious Chihuahua. The fighter's confident expression vanishes, replaced by alarm as he stares down the enraged little dog. In a bizarre twist, the Chihuahua reveals its unique skill, a power that is strong only against the weak. An official announcement declares the match over, confirming the 3-million-year fighter as the winner. Despite the overwhelming victory, he licks a fresh wound, hinting the fight wasn't entirely effortless. As the lizard creature panics, a student casually searches online for its adoption price, much to his friend's dismay. Meanwhile, the tournament bracket is updated, officially advancing the 3-million-year fighter to the next stage. The results of Match 5 are revealed, confirming the 13-time champion as the first to reach the finals. Now all eyes turn to Match 6, which will decide who faces him. The stage is set for the high-stakes battle to determine the second finalist. In one corner stands the 3-million-year fighter, his gaze fixed and unwavering. Facing him is the representative of boxing, a fighter whose skills in the ring far surpass his gaming abilities. Stepping into view is the boxing diamond seed, a blonde fighter with a confident smirk and a bandaged arm. This fighter, Kwok Chul, suddenly looks uneasy as his record reveals a previous loss to his current opponent. The moment their eyes meet, the boxer's tough facade crumbles in shocked recognition. The 3-million-year fighter greets his opponent with a chilling grin, reminding him of their painful past. Determined not to repeat his mistake, the boxer steels himself for the rematch. With the stage set, the two rivals prepare to clash for a shot at the champion. As the fight begins, both men lunge forward, each convinced of their own victory. Their fists meet in a thunderous collision, a testament to their raw power. Suddenly, the impact sends a shocking crack through the 3 million-year fighter's knuckles. He stumbles back, overcome by a wave of unexpected and excruciating agony. The boxer smirks, revealing his own cast as a memento from their last encounter. Engulfed by the overwhelming sensation, the fighter is lost in a world of pure pain. Yet instead of despair, a twisted smile spreads across his face as he feels truly alive. The boxer feels a sudden chill as his opponent's aura turns menacingly dark. Recognizing the danger, he tries to compose himself, believing a calm strategy will win the day. He decides to start with a flurry of jabs to test his opponent's defenses. In response, the blue-haired fighter raises his guard, his expression unreadable. The boxer reveals his true plan, a surprise kick, counting on his opponent expecting only punches. As his leg muscles tense for the attack, his opponent's eyes sharpen with focus. With a triumphant grin, he launches the kick, absolutely certain it will connect. But his confidence evaporates as the fighter effortlessly catches his leg mid-air. Using the captured limb for leverage, he delivers a powerful counter kick to the boxer's thigh. The shocking impact sends the boxer spinning away in a daze of pure disbelief. Using his spinning momentum, he unleashes a devastating counterpunch right to his opponent's jaw. The brutal impact sends the blonde fighter flying backward, his face contorted in shock. Without a moment's hesitation, he follows up, slamming his dazed opponent against the wall. His relentless assault leaves the onlookers utterly terrified by the familiar display of power. After that victory, the finals continue, and the seemingly unbeatable champion enters the ring. Her opponent is none other than the rising star, the 3 million-year fighter himself. With 1,000,001 on the line, he grins with manic energy, ready for his third fight of the day. He immediately rushes forward to attack, but the champion remains perfectly still and unimpressed. Suddenly, she snaps into action, launching a lightning-fast crescent kick straight at his head. His confident smirk vanishes, replaced by pure shock at the incredible speed of her attack. He desperately blocks a relentless flurry of kicks, barely holding his ground. Battered and breathless, he stares her down, trying to formulate a new strategy. He realizes her attacks are incredibly heavy, acknowledging she's no easy opponent. Frustrated, he recognizes her superior reach is his biggest problem, leaving him at a total disadvantage. As she questions his condition, he concludes that getting in close is simply impossible. Suddenly, he decides if he can't get close, he'll just have to extend his own reach. He leaps into the air, attempting to match her technique with a crescent kick of his own. But she effortlessly mirrors his move, meeting his kick with perfect timing and form. Without missing a beat, she counters with a powerful spinning kick that sends him reeling. The force of her own spin sends her cap flying, revealing her surprise at his unexpected strategy. He lands firmly on his feet, squaring up against his opponent under the crimson sky. He grimly acknowledges his own physical shortcomings, realizing his height puts him at a major disadvantage. With a look of sheer determination, she accepts his unspoken challenge and prepares to move. She then launches herself into the air, soaring directly towards him with incredible speed. A devastating axe kick comes crashing down, sending him sprawling to the ground. While still airborne, she immediately transitions into another powerful spinning attack. As her foot plummets towards his face, he spots a crucial pattern in her offensive. He realizes in a flash that every single one of her attacks is aimed high. At the last possible second, he rolls away, her kick missing him by a hair's breadth. She lands in a low crouch, her eyes wide with surprise at his unexpected dodge. A bead of sweat rolls down her temple as she stares in confusion at his sudden change in tactics. He remains on the ground on all fours, staring up at her with a look that suggests he has a trick up his sleeve. Unleashing his bizarre quadruped mode, he transforms his stance into something wild and unpredictable. With a mischievous grin, he gambles that staying low will finally give him the opening he desperately needs. She immediately tries to crush him with a powerful stomp, refusing to take his strange behavior seriously. But he slips away with ease, leaving her attack to hit nothing but air as she scoffs at his methods. While she is distracted by his antics, he prepares a counterattack from an angle she isn't guarding. His leg whips out in a blur, slicing through the air just inches above the pavement. He executes a sharp, sweeping kick, using his low position to target her legs with precision. Completely caught off guard by the low strike, she loses her balance and begins to crumble. The crowd erupts into chaos, their jaws hitting the floor as the underdog completely defies their expectations. Even his former training partner watches in stunned silence, realizing those 5 years of bizarre practice are finally paying off. The elders in the crowd can't believe their eyes, noting that this strange, beast-like style provides a defense so perfect, it's untouchable. However, admiration turns to despair for one gambler who realizes his heavy bet on the champion is about to go up in smoke. Back in the ring, the champion stomps the ground with earth-shattering force, but she only manages to crush the concrete as he slips away. He circles her like a spider, scrambling on all fours to evade every single strike with humiliating ease. She pauses for a split second, sweat dripping down her face as she wonders if she's fighting a man or a literal cockroach. But she isn't done yet, and her gaze sharpens into a deadly glare as she calculates the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, she switches tactics, launching a high kick that stretches her flexibility to the absolute limit. Pivoting on her heel with terrifying speed, she channels all that momentum into a spinning attack designed to crush him flat. Her heel connects with a solid thud, but instead of a knockout, she sends a green beanie spinning violently into the air. The hat flops onto the pavement, mocking her as she realizes her target has completely vanished from sight. Confusion strikes hard as she spots him slipping under her guard with the fluid grace of a phantom. Her pupils shrink in terror, sensing a sudden, overwhelming pressure rising from the ground to crush her. He unleashes the behemoth style, manifesting the terrifying aura of a raging bull to dominate the battlefield. This monstrous strength isn't random. It traces back to a time when Mu left Earth far behind. 3,000 years ago, he was dragged to a hostile alien world under Lucifer's domain. It was a realm drowning in wild mana, forcing him into a brutal struggle for survival against his will. The wildlife had mutated into nightmare creatures, so Mu grew stronger by hunting them down one by one. He stands tall over his conquests, grinning like a savage king who forged his godlike power in a world of monsters. Among the countless horrors he faced, one breed of four-legged nightmare stood above the rest. This was the behemoth, an apex predator of pure destruction that dwarfed even Mu in his prime. Now that ancient terror is invoked through hieroglyphic authority, manifesting its crushing aura right before her eyes. With a thought, he commands his own biology to shift, forcing his muscles to mimic the beast's impossible structure. Flesh and fibers scream in protest as his arm swells, reconstructing itself into a weapon of absolute devastation. Before she can even process the danger, that monstrous grip clamps onto her torso with inescapable force. Gravity loses its hold as she is violently launched backward by a strength that defies human limits. She becomes a rag doll in the wind, helpless against the momentum of a throw mimicking a mythical beast. The pavement tears apart as she skids to a halt, putting a terrifying distance between her and the monster in human skin. Pain explodes through her gut as she struggles to rise, realizing she's fighting something far beyond a simple martial artist. He leaps into the air with manic energy, clasping his hands together to deliver a skull-crushing hammer blow. A massive purple avatar manifests behind him, lending the weight of a mythical beast to his devastating strike. Just before impact, a bright pink smartphone abruptly shoves into his face, freezing him in sheer confusion. The tension instantly evaporates as a streamer girl casually intervenes, declaring the match over due to a technicality. Silence falls over the arena as the announcer confirms the disqualification, handing a bizarre victory to the ancient fighter. Spectators in the stands exchange baffled glances, struggling to process how a deathmatch ended with a rule violation. Disappointment ripples through the crowd as they grumble about the anticlimactic finale to such a high-stakes brawl. Ignoring the awkward atmosphere, the girl cheerfully signs off to her viewers, treating the violence like a mere backdrop for her content. She immediately turns her attention to the bewildered fighter, offering him the prize money if he agrees to follow her lead. With the deal seemingly struck, she guides him away from the confused masses and into the quiet shadows of the city. She clarifies the terms, reminding him that the massive cash prize is contingent on a specific victory. The fighter stands silent, listening as she casually double-checks the details of their agreement. Suddenly, she drops the twist, revealing that his previous victory was merely a qualification round. To actually secure the money, he must defeat one final adversary standing in his way. Before he can react, she spins around with terrifying speed to initiate the final bout herself. She launches a devastating aerial strike, driving her knee straight into his unguarded chest. The impact is immediate and severe, forcing the air from his lungs in a painful burst. Unable to withstand the force, he is sent flying backward, crashing hard onto the cold pavement. Landing with a smirk, she cheerfully announces that she is the final boss he needs to overcome. He writhes in pain, realizing too late that intentionally taking that hit was a foolish mistake. She sticks the landing with style, leaving her opponent completely incapacitated and staring helplessly at the sky. With the obstacle removed, the duo turns their backs on the fallen fighter and casually exits the alley. Her companion wipes a bead of sweat from his face, relieved they secured the cash despite the unexpected trouble. They waste no time lingering at the scene, disappearing into the urban landscape before anyone asks questions. But the defeated man isn't ready to quit, dragging his broken body across the pavement in a pathetic attempt to follow. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he desperately tries to summon a recovery item to get back in the game. He crawls out onto the open street, searching frantically for the partner who was supposed to be his support. Meanwhile, that very partner is sprinting away in a panic, gasping for air as he flees the scene. Sweat pours down his face as he questions every life choice that led him to this disastrous moment. His thoughts drift back to the beginning, realizing this entire nightmare began with a shady gambling app and a bad tip. He collapses in sheer agony, realizing he just torched 5 million won of his mother's hard-earned savings. Watching the funds vanish in minutes, his twisted logic tells him the only way to fix this is to keep playing. Remembering a tip about a lender who takes collateral, he sprints through the city with a desperate plan. He barges into the office and slams a heavy, mysterious sack onto the desk with a loud thud. The loan shark raises an eyebrow as the strange bundle begins to squirm and wiggle on the table. With trembling fingers, the desperate gambler rushes to untie the knot and reveal his prize. Out pops a confused green monster, tied up like a hostage and looking nothing like a normal animal. He quickly pulls up a photo, trying to convince the skeptical boss that this is a rare, endangered reptile. Even though the thing has wings and horns, he shamelessly claims it's a priceless mutant variant. He screams that a collector would pay a fortune, while the unamused lender looks at him like he's insane. Desperate to prove his point, he shoves a phone in the lender's face, insisting that online appraisers value the creature at an astronomical price. He storms out into the stairwell, fuming that the shop had the audacity to offer peanuts for what he believes is a multi-million-dollar find. Recovering quickly from the rejection, he turns his attention to his hooded companion, deciding to pivot to a completely different scheme. With a greedy grin, he realizes that trading this mysterious person might actually be the ticket to a better payout than the lizard. The hooded accomplice nods in silent agreement, ready to play their part in this hastily constructed con. Feeling confident, the gambler snaps a quick photo of his partner on the street, convinced this new angle is a stroke of genius. Without hesitation, the figure marches up the stairs, heading straight back into the office to face the intimidating boss once again. Back at the negotiation table, the gambler nervously slides a high school student ID card forward as his new form of collateral. The unamused boss stares daggers at the trembling figure and coldly commands them to remove their disguise immediately. With a forced and awkward smile, the student pulls back their hood to reveal a face that perfectly matches the ID card. The boss critiques the edited photo, but accepts the student ID as collateral, sliding the cash forward with a strict 1-week repayment deadline. Mission accomplished. The gambler casually exits the building while his anxious partner waits nervously at the bottom of the stairs. The big guy spots his friend and immediately asks if they succeeded, his face filled with nervous anticipation. With a smug grin, the gambler flashes the envelope of cash, acting like the dangerous encounter was a total breeze. As they walk away, the partner complains about the scary atmosphere, but the gambler is already scheming to multiply the money. Behind them, the unassuming sign for Grandma Money Collateral Loans hangs silently, masking the true nature of the business. Inside the office, a mysterious figure in a purple hoodie relaxes in a chair, skillfully spinning the borrower's ID card on his finger. The boss worries the borrower won't pay up, but the young master dismisses the concern with a chilling lack of interest. Suddenly, the hooded figure whips his arm forward, launching the plastic card through the air with lethal velocity. The card slams into the wall with a sharp thud, embedding itself deep into the surface to show off his terrifying strength. Among the confiscated items lies a helpless green dinosaur plushie, bound and abandoned on the table like a prisoner of war. Chaos erupts at the local high school as a piercing scream announces the sudden disappearance of the beloved toy. The owner's face contorts into a terrifying mask of panic as the reality of her loss begins to set in. She turns her hysteria toward the blue-haired student, demanding answers while practically tearing her own hair out. Driven by pure adrenaline, she rampages through the room and rips open every locker in a desperate bid to find it. Her classmate watches silently as she bolts out the door to continue her frantic manhunt in the hallway. The scarred student remains cool and collected, leaning back in his chair while others sweat nervously in the background. After a fruitless search, the girl returns to the classroom and collapses onto her desk in utter defeat. The boy finally breaks his silence to deliver a cold dose of reality about the missing item's true location. She snaps her head up in disbelief, furious that he waited until now to share his crucial deduction. He taps a specific spot on the sketch, finally revealing the answer she was desperate for. She freezes, staring at the diagram as the realization of the location hits her like a truck. The drawing depicts a monster, suggesting the missing item was snatched by something dangerous. With a deadpan expression, he confirms that the object vanished right into the beast's territory. Adrenaline kicks in and she bolts from her seat, leaving a gust of wind in her wake. She skids into the hallway and throws open the door to the faculty office in a panic. A massive instructor stands in the doorway, completely baffled by her chaotic intrusion. Her escape attempt fails instantly as the teacher hoists her up by the collar like a naughty kitten. Humiliation sets in as the giant man carries the dangling student back to her seat. She trembles with suppressed rage at her desk, forced to endure the silent judgment of her peer. The bruised student sits at his desk, seething with disappointment over a missed opportunity. His mind replays the chaotic brawl, regretting that he couldn't land the finishing blow before being stopped. The sheer dissatisfaction of an interrupted duel leaves him making a terrifying face at his desk. To make matters worse, he stares at his trembling hand, realizing his body is currently far too weak. Even a brief skirmish has pushed his pathetic muscles to their absolute limit. However, this weakness only ignites a twisted excitement within him to push even harder next time. As he happily daydreams about future violence, the girl beside him shivers in pure terror at his manic energy. Finally, the sun sets and the liberation of the final bell rings across the campus. Desperate to leave, the girl snatches his arm and frantically drags him out of the classroom. But their hasty exit hits a wall when a menacing student silently blocks their path on the stairs. The girl's frantic escape is cut short as she questions the sudden interruption, confused by the boy's shifting demeanor. Instead of a fight, the menacing figure simply walks past them, leaving the protagonist to secretly plot his return to power. A calculated look returns to his eyes as he realizes this situation might actually work in his favor. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he decides to dump the tedious search work on his companion while he focuses solely on getting stronger. Elsewhere on campus, a hulking student occupies a bathroom stall, trembling with intensity over a very different kind of struggle. His massive hands clutch a tiny smartphone as he engages in a high-stakes mobile gaming match. Sweat pours down his face as the digital battle reaches its absolute climax, requiring every ounce of his focus. The quiet atmosphere of the restroom hangs in the air, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Without warning, the stall door is violently kicked in, slamming into the occupant with tremendous force. Despite the concussion-inducing impact to his forehead, the gamer beams with pure ecstasy because he managed to secure the victory just in time. Ignoring the concussion he just received, the gambling addict stares at his screen in disbelief as his very last coin triggers a massive jackpot. A flush of pure greed overtakes his features as he mentally calculates the astronomical value of his digital prize. Completely detached from reality, he begins fantasizing about paying off his crushing debts, reaffirming his inability to ever quit this high-stakes habit. Elsewhere, a frantic search is underway as two students scour the pavement on their hands and knees for a missing companion. They peek around every corner and dusty alleyway, desperately calling out the name of the lost creature to no avail. Even the local gym isn't safe from their campaign, as missing posters line the walls behind a man focused intently on his boxing training. The flyer reveals the target of their manhunt is a bizarrely cute green lizard, described with a rather repetitive emphasis on its adorable traits. Despite their exhaustive efforts, the sun begins to set without a single trace of the elusive reptile, leaving the pair slumped on a park bench in defeat. Frustration bubbles up as they discuss the pet's actual owner, a smug young man who hasn't lifted a finger to help find his own animal. Sensing the drop in morale, the girl with glasses jumps up and volunteers to fetch some refreshments to lighten the heavy mood. As the red-haired girl waves cheerfully, she remains completely oblivious to the imposing, faceless figure looming like a statue directly behind her. The stranger silently grips a student ID card belonging to Lee Daljan, revealing that he has been tracking this specific target for quite some time.
Meanwhile, the girl with glasses suddenly halts in her tracks, her attention caught by a familiar presence that triggers a sense of déjà vu.
She stands frozen on the park path, the single word sister echoing in the air and pulling her mind into a sudden flashback. The narrative rewinds a few days, setting the stage at a high school bathed in the warm orange glow of dusk. Inside the hallway, a hulking student stiffens in fear as a grinning trickster creeps up behind him with zero good intentions. The smaller boy slides into the giant's personal space, catching him off guard with a sudden, stealthy approach that screams trouble. Leaning in close, the instigator whispers observations that make the large man sweat with nervous anticipation. With zero hesitation, he pokes the giant's chest, complimenting his muscle definition while casually breaking all social hierarchy rules. The big guy's ego instantly inflates along with his pecs, his initial nervousness replaced by pride at the recognition of his physical gains. With a confident grin, the newcomer announces his bold decision to crash the training session. He stands his ground before the confused giant, making his presence impossible to ignore. Elsewhere, a tense negotiation unfolds over a confiscated student ID card. Desperation takes over as the girl slams the desk, demanding the return of her stolen property. The man across from her turns cold, claiming the card is collateral for a debt she doesn't recall. Panic sets in as she vehemently denies ever borrowing a single cent from him. His patience snaps instantly, and he smashes his fist down to silence her protests. Twisting the narrative, he accuses her of playing dumb just to avoid paying up. Enjoying her fear, he waves the ID card like a trophy to taunt her further. Broken by the intimidation, she finally caves and asks the price of her freedom. He ruthlessly calculates the debt, piling on an exorbitant interest fee just to twist the knife deeper. Desperate to escape his clutches, she forces a nervous smile and promises to settle the score within a week. As he tosses her identification into his desk, he issues a chilling warning not to test his patience again. Her card lands atop a heap of others, revealing that she is far from his first victim in this shady business. Before she can flee, he paralyzes her with the terrifying reminder that he knows exactly where she goes to school. The heavy door slams shut, leaving the shark alone with the mysterious figure watching silently from the couch. Shaking his head, the man grumbles about the hopelessness of today's youth, completely forgetting his audience. Suddenly realizing his words might have offended the young master, he frantically waves his hands to clear up the misunderstanding. Trying to smooth things over, he nervously offers to contact the boy's uncle to break the awkward tension. As the conversation dies down, the scene shifts to the quiet exterior of the building as evening sets in. With a sharp click of the lock, the man secures the door, clearly eager to wash his hands of this entire situation. He stomps down the hallway, muttering under his breath about the indignity of serving such an ungrateful little brat. As he descends the stairs, he is too busy complaining to notice he isn't the only one moving through the building. Meanwhile, a girl in a white hoodie creeps up the steps, carefully checking her surroundings to avoid detection. She tiptoes down the corridor with determination, refusing to let these scammers get away with her hard-earned cash. Reaching the door, she grips the handle and turns it slowly, holding her breath as she prepares to infiltrate the room. But instead of an empty office, she is horrified to find a strange green creature trapped in a cage, begging to be released. Her heart stops as a massive, dark shadow suddenly engulfs her from behind, signaling she is definitely not alone. Panic sets in as she stiffens, sweat rolling down her face while she dreads turning around to face the owner of that shadow. She spins around only to run smack into a hulking figure in a varsity jacket, leaving both of them staring in shock. Before she can scream, a massive hand clamps over her mouth, stifling her panic instantly. It's the guy in the varsity jacket, frantically shushing her while sweating bullets, clearly just as terrified of getting caught as she is. His eyes are wide with urgency as he signals for absolute silence, warning her not to make a single sound. To prove he's not a threat, he flashes her own student ID card, revealing he found her lost wallet. He whispers a desperate truce, explaining he's only here to retrieve his own confiscated items, and suggests they both just grab their stuff and leave quietly. Realizing he's an ally rather than an enemy, she slowly nods in agreement, and the tension between them finally breaks. With the coast clear, she sneaks down the hallway, clutching the rescued green creature tightly under her arm. She pauses by a lost pet poster on the wall, confirming that the little guy she just saved is indeed the missing young Yongi. Anger flares in her eyes as she realizes the faculty weren't just confiscating items, but actually stealing someone's beloved pet. But their escape isn't going to be easy, as a security camera overhead silently tracks their every move with a glowing red eye. Yujin freezes in her tracks as a familiar voice calls out her name, interrupting her stealthy escape. She turns around nervously, sweat forming on her brow as her friend Daljun catches up with a suspicious look. Daljun immediately starts scolding her for disappearing without a word, clearly worried sick about her sudden absence. But as Yujin tries to come up with an excuse, the zipper on her backpack slowly slides open on its own. Both girls stare in shock as the little green dragon boldly pops his head out, completely blowing Yujin's cover. Instead of screaming, Daljun instantly recognizes the missing pet and tackles Yujin with a tearful, emotional embrace. She nuzzles her face against the squirming creature, crying tears of joy at finding the adorable little guy safe. The heartwarming moment is interrupted when the creature suddenly stiffens, his eyes locking onto someone standing nearby. Ignoring the girls completely, he launches himself into the air, desperate to reach the person he actually belongs to. He lands firmly on the arm of a dark-haired student, clinging tightly to his true master with visible relief. The touching reunion is instantly shattered as the student reacts with sheer horror at the sudden physical contact. Without a shred of mercy, he violently flings the affectionate little lizard straight onto the hard pavement. He stands over the dazed creature and casually offers a lame excuse about being too sore to hold him properly. Outraged by his cruelty, the girl marches over to scream at him while the poor pet lies motionless on the ground. The scene shifts to security footage, showing the redhead fleeing down a stairwell with the lizard tucked under her arm. She rushes down the steps in a panic, clearly trying to make a quick escape without being noticed. Moments later, the camera captures a male student crouching on the stairs to inspect a clue left behind during the escape. He scrambles to his feet and dashes down the rest of the flight, clutching the evidence tightly in his hand. A mysterious figure watches the playback on a monitor, amused by the chaotic chase unfolding on the screen. The investigators analyze the situation, noting 2 missing student IDs and the strange creature left behind as collateral. The hooded figure violently grabs his subordinate by the collar, berating the terrified man for his incompetence in letting the security keys slip away. However, he quickly releases his grip and dismisses the stolen funds as pocket change, fixating instead on the insult of having his private office breached. A menacing grin spreads across his face as the sheer audacity of the students sinks in, fueling a dangerous desire to teach the intruders a lesson they won't forget.